Might have to mute that, Rich. You're getting feedback on the speaker. So, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio-video recorded. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. For everyone's information, we have a member participating remotely, Chairman Richard Bursch, and my next order of business will be attendance. Richard Bursch?
Present.
Todd Dwyer, I'm here. Bob Pease?
Present.
Katie Childs?
Present.
Ken Jones?
Yes.
Carl Luck?
Present.
Jeff Viviano, Associate Member?
Present.
And it appears Jack Rabbit is absent.
I have one thing I have to do for the public. I've been just reminded of this recently. Guys, just so you know, in case we have to exit the premises quickly, there is an exit down the hall, to the left, out the back door, as well as the exit up in the front. Okay?
And as a result of having a member participating remotely, all votes tonight will be via roll call. With that, any announcements from the Commission?
I got a formal notice from the state that the Trails Grant was approved. Now comes the paperwork. There's 5 different forms that have to be filled out. We have to make a phone call before we can sign the forms. So, but it's on its way. So.
Great. Fantastic.
Good job.
Any other announcements from the Commission? Any announcements from the public?
I have one, Mr. Chair. I have an Eagle Scout here that just wanted to talk to the Commission really quick.
Sure. Why don't you come down and give us your name and address?
Hi, my name is Justin Balsam, and I live at 48 Rockville Road. And I'm a member of the Lunenburg Boy Scout Troop 1728. And I've been working recently on a plan for my Eagle project, which would be at the pollinator habitat. And I was interested in making a bridge there, because there's one side, I do have a few pictures of it, that there's a large ditch that goes through it that usually has water or mud in it, and the only way to cross it is on the side closest to the road. And I was proposing to make a bridge on the opposite side that would connect some existing trails that were already there. And my thoughts were that I've been there in the past, and some with the troop that we were volunteering for maintenance and weeding work and everything there. And I believe that connecting that trail there would make it a nicer place to complete the whole circuit and make it more appealing for people to go there and walk around. And I had a couple of the pictures of about the location where it would be on the property. That was... And to move on forward, I would need to get approval from the Commission to be able to move forward and submit to the Boy Scout Council to review and approve it. And to begin, I was wondering if there were any questions I could answer about that, about what to do next.
I'd be interested to hear what Commissioner Ken has to say about it.
I think I've met with you on site before. I think it's a great idea. Basically, the only spot that, being the one that mows all of the trails there, there's a trail that basically goes around the whole perimeter of the property, and the only spot that you can't access that perimeter trail is where he wants to put the bridge. I think it would definitely improve the flow of the trails on the property, and I think it'd be a great benefit to the project. So I'm certainly in favor of it.
I move we endorse this project.
I guess the question I have, it's a footbridge in the structure crossing a ditch which is intermittent. Is it actually near any wetlands? Would we need to file a permit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Commission should probably just file maybe an RDA on behalf of the project, just to cover the bases.
Yeah, we can file it ourselves.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
But I mean, I think just to document it and have it on file, I think we probably should, because it's definitely within the resource area. But I don't think, that being said, I don't think it's going to have any impact except positive impact on the property and the resource.
What's the construction sort of is, the size and?
Okay, yeah, for the size of it, around the area where it would be, the actual mud part, at the widest, it was around 8 feet. And so the actual span would, depending on exactly where it is, which is still not completely set yet, we were estimating it could be at most 10 to 12, which would coincide well with the supplies, like the 16-foot pieces of lumber for the bridge. And I also have been talking to Mrs. Albertson about that, who I know does a lot of work for that. And I had been asking, and I had her opinion, and she had already gone through, and she said that she agreed with the project too, and would like to help with that, making that happen. And also I would add that at the highest point, from the measurement, it seemed like it would probably be between 2 feet and less above the solid ground level under the mud, so it would not be something that's that high up. So.
Is it got railings on it? Or?
And what we were at right now, the design isn't completely set yet either before it goes for the council approval, but what we had right now did not, as we thought it was something that would stand out more against the background there. And it was supposed to be, right now we also had it at about 4 feet wide too, so.
Good. Thank you, good.
Sounds like a well-thought-out plan.
So we'll do an RDA, we have a sketch or something anyway on the RDA.
An RDA, he's got sketches, and you've got sketches on the design, correct?
Yeah, I had some they weren't that complicated yet, but I had made like a fairly quick one. It's not an official one or anything, but just about the dimensions and everything.
Well, I think this sounds like a fantastic project for the property, and I think it's something that commissioners can wholeheartedly endorse. I don't know that we have to take a vote to endorse it at this time, but I think we could. It's not on.
Yeah, I think to go forward, I think we should probably just take a quick vote just to endorse the project so we can submit it to, I think that's what we've done in the past.
Okay.
For Eagle Scout projects.
I did make a motion, but no one seconded it.
I would second Bob's motion to endorse the project.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? No comments from the public. Let's have a roll call vote. Richard Birch.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye?
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Very good. Thank you very much.
So when you get a chance, and you finalize your sketch, drop it off to me.
Okay.
Even if I'm not there, just leave it on my desk. Okay?
And I did have one final question too. Is in the form that I'm supposed to submit, if they ask for a signature from the benefactor?
I can sign
Okay.
it because they've endorsed the project, so as administrator, I can sign on their behalf now.
Okay. Thank you.
So any signatures you need, also give me an estimate of what you need for supplies.
Okay. Okay, and that's everything I have right now. So thank you.
Beautiful, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll call to order our first hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Lunenburg Wetland Bylaw, Section 335, Alan Como has filed a request for determination regarding tree removal and shrubs on a lot for a single-family home with installation of water, sewer, drain, and portions of driveway 70 feet away from a wetland resource, and a rolling dock on waterfront lot at 240 Prospect Street. Good evening.
Hi, Al Como. I'd like to build a house at 240 Prospect. And, some of the property is within the 100-foot wetlands buffer zone. I'd like permission to clear the lot, down to the road, and put a dock in. The property on the other side of the road is on the lake. I'd like to.
This is one of the lots of budding Keith Bedoyne's.
Yes.
Prospect Street at the corner.
Mhm.
So you've got a portion of the driveway, a portion of the sewer line, and a portion of the water line that's in the outer edge of the buffer zone. The lake section is across the street, and he also wants to do the same thing Keith did and put a dock, which he's got located on the plans. It's a rolling dock.
Mm-hmm.
So, is this just like Bedoyne's then? There is a paved street between where the work would take place and the wetlands?
Yes.
Except for the dock, yes.
Except for the dock? That's the end of my questions.
And looking at the plan, it looks like just the southern portion of the property is adjacent to wetland. Is that where
Yes.
most of the clearing of the shrubs is going to be? It's between the 100-foot wetland buffer and the 50-foot?
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the 50-foot, it looks like, it's not labeled on the plan, but it looks like it's probably somewhere near the edge of the existing roadway?
I think the edge of the road was 60 feet from the water.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, so it's about 40 feet of the property that would be inside the 100 foot.
I haven't looked at this one particularly. What's the condition of the vegetation along the lake where the dock goes?
Along the lake?
Yeah.
It's fairly well overgrown. I would like to clear out, some of the dead stuff. I'd like to clean it up some, but I need to find out what the...
I can answer that actually.
Yeah,
It's basically almost the same as Bedoyne's, except he's got some invasives that he could clear out by hand.
Yeah.
Some bittersweet that's wrapped around that he could cut, and I mean, it's essentially identical with the exception that he's got invasives where Bedoyne didn't.
Yeah. So no trees or anything, no full-grown trees?
Nope.
No, there's nothing that substantial there at all.
Good.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
I have no question.
Ken? No. Bob?
No, all set.
Rich, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the only thing, if we can, in the order of conditions for the
You mean the determination?
It's an RDA.
determination, yeah. Yeah, is just to ensure that the lake bank is not damaged or altered in putting the lake there. If he has to do any alteration of the bank, it has to come back, or any walkways or any clearing, other than what Matt mentioned, the invasives and the little bit of scrub here and there.
So, in other words, the bank of the lake, you can't alter.
Right, yeah.
You can clear whatever you need for vegetation to get to the dock.
Yeah.
All the stuff that's wrapped around and that is killed off, the shrubbery that's there, you can take that out by hand.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything else. You have to leave the remaining vegetation in place.
Right.
And if you want to do that, you have to come back with a separate filing for that.
I see. Yeah.
Okay?
Very good.
I believe you and I discussed that in the office when you were with your project, so.
That would be much further down the road, and want to try to get the house up first.
All right, without any other comments from the commission, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for a negative determination, which is a good thing, on this request for determination at 240 Prospect Street.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. With a roll call vote, Richard Birsch,
Aye.
Ken Jones,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye?
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
You're all set.
Thank you all very much.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. We'll open our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Lunenburg Wetland Bylaw, Section 335, David Seafold I apologize for pronunciation of the name, has filed a request for determination for construction of a detached garage within 100 feet of the buffer zone at 951 New West Townsend Road.
Do you have other? Oh, you have it there. All right.
Yeah, so I just looking to build a two-car garage on my property. That's as far away from the buffer zones I can put it without running into the ledge and some other stuff on the ground.
Are you Mr. Seapool?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's I told, yeah.
Yeah, Seapool, thank you. So the plan. Thank you, I'll pass this around. so.
Yeah, well, it's on the cloud. I was just looking for the 50 and 100 foot and...
Well, actually, the
where
50,
wetlands
the
is.
50's off the property. The garage is exactly 85 feet away from the edge of wet. I went out and verified it by hand measurement.
But it should be on the drawing, right? We should always have the... It is? Where?
Well, we have measurements from it.
Yeah,
shown
we
on
usually
the
require
application.
that the 100-foot line be on here,
Agreed?
right?
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so let's just add it in, just because we make everybody else do that.
So, it'll be right there.
So it's 85, so it's halfway through the garage, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about a quarter of the way through.
What sort of, is this going to be slab foundation with a frost wall, or?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that particular area is, you gotta sign and date that just for the amendment. That particular, that's one of the areas out right on the Fitchburg line.
Mm-hmm.
And his house is like a, I guess you'd call it an oasis, totally surrounded by wetlands, DCR lands, the abutting property in the back.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything out there other than other than a slab line.
Mm-hmm. Any questions from the commissioners? While this is... Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Matt? Yeah, was the wetland pre-delineated, or did you delineate it, Matt?
Well, no, I didn't delineate it, but I mean, the wetland edge was like very obvious. Like, there was no
Okay.
subtlety about it at all. So I went out and measured at the closest point from the wetland's edge.
All right, and just, I do know that area a little bit. There was no wetlands across the street?
There were wetlands across the street, but I did an orthophoto measurement and it was greater than 100 feet.
Okay, all right, good, yeah, because I did, DEP's comments were to verify the delineation. So if you did it, that's great.
On this one, no, that was 915. That was 915 Northfield.
Okay,
This was an RDA, so.
Yep.
okay, but you still verified it, so.
Yeah,
And I heard you ask him to sign and date the plan?
yes, I did it, which he just did.
Okay, perfect,
So
perfect.
I was unable to go and view the site. One thing I can't tell from your sketch here is the slope across the property, does everything kind of slope towards the wetlands?
No, in fact, it goes the other direction, towards the driveway in the middle of that sketch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I can attest to that.
So I guess my thought is during construction, I'd still like to see erosion protection on the property. And
That's fine.
yeah, and that should be a condition of our approval, because we're not issuing an order of conditions as an RDA. So something simple like,
Just take a line of wattles and put them around the perimeter of the construction
Yeah.
area so that nothing can get into the wetland.
hay bales and silt
on the
fence or
backside.
straw wattles, yeah,
In the side of the direction of the...
direction of the flow, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I know a guy that might be able to help you out.
Good. Good, all we can get.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Any comments from the public? I will accept a motion for a -3 determination with the caveat that erosion protection will be in place during construction.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Richard Burke,
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. Bob Keith,
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Yep, aye.
and I vote aye as well. You're all set. Thank you. Moving right along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Lunenburg Wetland Bylaw, Section 335, Scott and Michelle Taylor have filed a notice of intent for a septic upgrade repair at 257 Howard Street.
There's a PDF on the cloud as well.
That's right. That's dinner.
Guys want to look at this? It's also on the cloud as well.
Dan Proctor, septic installer for the clients, the Taylors. Here's the green cards. 257 Howard Street, coming off of West Townsend Road. It'd be on your left just before you get to Sequoia Drive. Existing three-bedroom house with a failed septic system, hydraulically bleeding out on the ground. So we have a proposed new 1,500-gallon septic tank and Presby system. 35-foot no disturb zone, 50-foot wet buffer zone. And the biggest thing that's driving this location is our well radius.
That's what he said.
Try to get as far away from the well as possible. We're still within the 100-foot spoke, but greater than the 50-foot spoke. So really our only option on that property
I'm just going to check it.
is the rear of the property where the existing system is.
Sure did.
Obviously, straw wattle around the perimeter of the work area.
So, one thing I noticed on your plan, you have a 35-foot no disturb zone. Well, that wouldn't be a bad thing. We have a 30-foot no disturbance zone, so that should be corrected on the plan.
Okay.
And it appears, can I have that scale again, Matt?
Sure.
I'm looking at the edge of wetland, and I'm just trying to determine where the edge of grading is to make sure that you're outside.
Yeah, I'm scaling it right now. We're outside the 30-foot, no touch with our last contour line for the grading.
Yep. Where's the 20? There we go. Yeah, so it looks like your nearest contour is right at the 30.
That's correct.
Generally, we'd like to see the erosion protection brought up as close to the 30 as possible to delineate where that 30 is.
Okay.
So you grade right up to your erosion protection.
Yep.
Based on that plan.
Okay.
So right now, those are the only changes I see. Are there any tree removal or anything like that required within the
Really
grading
just
area?
small shrubs.
Okay.
I mean, there's a couple saplings, probably less than 4 inch, but really no trees.
Okay.
I see the plan. The plan looks, I think, kind of
It's on the cloud. It could be under NOIs.
Oh, that'll explain it. I don't get the plan, but I'll look into it. Thanks, Bill.
And this was approved at the Board of Health 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I did actually verify that with Andrea.
Mr. Chairman, as you were out on site, do you feel the need to demarcate the 30-foot no-touch zone line?
I actually was not on site, I don't believe.
Oh, okay.
But
I went on site, but Rich Todd had asked to have the erosion protection moved to demarcate the 30-foot line, so that's going to have to be survey located in the field when he puts up his erosion protection.
No, I was more concerned with in perpetuity,
Hmm.
a perpetual demarcation of the 30-foot no touch. Because I'm trying to find it here on the aerials. Is there a big deck off of it?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so that is the house I can see. So you're not taking any of the big trees down in the back, Dan?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Rich, do you still, are you still concerned based on that to demarcate it if the large trees are still on the property?
Yeah, looking at it, if they're not taking down the trees in the back, I mean, I'll leave it up to, if there's others that are concerned, I would support it, but at this point, no.
It's not like, they're not adding a tremendous amount of lawn area or anything like that, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we need it here.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Does it have a DEP number yet?
Yes, it does.
And the DEP have any comments?
No, they didn't.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to issue or to approve the notice of intent with a caveat that the plan will be should be updated to include or to modify and correctly show the 30-foot no disturbance line, as well as the moving the erosion protection so it delineates the line in the portions of the project that are nearest the wetland resource area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, roll call vote, Richard Bursch,
Aye.
Bob Keys,
Aye.
Ken Jones,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Earl.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
So I'll get to Sherman Villas to come up with a new plan. Get that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have your order ready for the next meeting, so if they could get me the plan as soon as possible, and they need to reference the revised plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Bob,
Oh, everybody's got colds, huh?
to answer your question, DEP did have one comment.
Oh, they did, huh?
Applicant should provide the commission with the method and supporting documentation for delineation of bordering vegetative wetland.
Yeah, actually, I addressed that because they have on-site staff that do that, so it was actually Brandon Ducharme that did the delineation. Because I did ask Jack that
No, where
question.
was Ducharme and Dillis, that's why I didn't really mention it. I
Yeah.
was more than, less than concerned with Ducharme and Dillis.
Thank you.
All right, our next meeting is a continuation pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of the Lunenburg General Bylaw, Wetland Bylaw. John Harrison has filed a notice of intent for construction of a single-family home and dwelling and grading to accommodate a septic system at 915 Northfield Road.
There's also a behind me I have Ferris, you would have. This shows the overall orientation. Building properties.
Yep.
This shows the orientation on Northfield Road, because you guys had also asked for that, so from the looks of it, Rosemary had done a second plan on that as well.
On the assessor's website, this all shows as one lot. Is that since been subdivided?
Exactly, yep. It has, it's registered, it's registered.
And so this application is for this lot now up to this line right here?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Now, the only thing we don't have is the DEP number. They were just waiting for the wetland report on this.
Yep.
And Mary Ann DePinto, I just emailed it out today because I had it in the email box.
Okay.
So,
So they have a DEP number.
well, they don't have it yet.
But-
I'll look it up just to make sure, but either way, if you guys make any decisions, I'll write up an order for the pending the number, because we should have it any time then,
Okay.
if that's all they were waiting for.
Okay, and it looks like, why don't you take us through the updates on the plan for
Yep,
everybody's
so
information?
we put through the updates that were asked for. We bordered the 30-foot with the stones. We delineated the no-touch, and we, on this plan, we show in relation to where the road is, and we show the, you were asked to show where
Yep.
the garage was.
The interesting thing, I noted that Mary Ann's report delineated that as an isolated wetland. So it's jurisdictional under bylaw only,
Mm-hmm.
according to her report.
Why does making it isolated make it only jurisdictional under the bylaw?
Because the state has no jurisdiction over isolated wetlands unless it's an isolated land subject to flooding, which requires very specific criteria, which this wouldn't meet. That's based on DEP
I
regulation.
just learned something.
An isolated land subject to flooding would have to have a watershed that would give it a quarter-acre foot of holding water, and it doesn't, it falls short on that.
Never knew that.
Any questions from commissioners based on our updated plan?
I don't have any.
No?
Carl?
Nope. Nope, looks like what was discussed.
Rich, do you have any questions?
Rich, you there?
DEP number yet?
We do not have a DEP number yet.
DEP was awaiting the, according to Denise Child, DEP was awaiting the wetland report, which Mary Ann DePinto sent out this afternoon.
Okay, so we're just gonna continue it?
I was gonna ask if there was a way we could prove, if you like it, contingent on getting the numbers, so it would save me a little bit of time, if that's possible.
I don't know, I don't know, usually we wait till we have a DEP number and,
Yeah.
At this time, I don't think we require any additional updates based on feedback from the commissioners on the plan. I just don't know without the DEP number that we're
Well, I mean, based on an administrative scenario, what normally would happen is if you guys approved it, I would draft up an order for you guys to review and sign at the next meeting. I can draft up a potential order to get ready to sign based on the number, because you're going to have to sign off on it anyway in a couple of weeks. So I can get a potential one done and into the computer, and if you make any changes at the next meeting, or add a special condition, I can just type it in, bang it out, we're done.
But under that scenario, it sounds like we still would
We still
continue.
continue.
Yeah, you still
Yeah.
continue.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So with the applicant's permission, we will continue this hearing until October 16th,
Okay.
which will be at Town Hall, correct?
That'll be a town hall.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good.
I mean, we did this.
I'll make that a motion.
Motion. Roll call vote. Rich?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Carl? I vote aye as well.
Because we've done the same thing before with Mr. Trump. You guys will copy these? I like the way Rosemary did that, though. Did the separate overall.
I do too.
Instead of trying to put them on the plan and...
You don't need the detail.
Right, but then did then did another plan showing more heavier detail.
Jack, what do you Mullins forms? Handy? Mullen?
Yeah, I got some. I'll get you some. How many do you need?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 8.
A few.
I'll just give you a handful.
All right.
All right. Open our next hearing and continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Section 239 of Lunenburg General Bylaw, the Wetland Bylaw. DPW has filed a notice of intent for replacement of culverts at Sunset Lane and Northfield Road. Are we going to continue this again, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, they're on the database, finally, but there's no number yet.
Very good. I will accept a motion to continue this hearing until October 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call vote. Richard Birch.
Aye.
Bob Pease. Bob.
I was thinking about it.
Ken Jones. Aye. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
The reason I was thinking about it is I'm not sure why they have to come to this. It's, I mean, they're replacing a culvert under a road. And the work's already been completed. So,
Red tape.
You'd have to meet the technical requirement. It doesn't,
Nobody has to
it
come,
doesn't
right?
exactly meet the exemption criteria because of the culvert, because they have to actually touch the wetland.
Right.
So we're going to get Jack or a DPW representative at one of the next meetings so we can stop continuing at some point.
Hopefully.
Okay, good.
well, but don't
Now that we have a
but
DEP,
don't we need a DEP
we
now?
have
That's
one
what we're
now.
waiting for. yeah.
Well, they're on the database.
Oh, they're on
They
the
didn't issue the
database.
number yet.
Are they still backlogged?
They're working through it because they've been pounding out numbers fast and furious, so.
Mhm. All
But,
right.
I mean, I've talked to a couple of the DEP agents out there.
Mhm.
They've been putting in a lot of extra time, actually.
Really?
They've gotten authorization for comp time to, said they don't get overtime, so they're going to get comp time, but they took it because they want to get that workload done.
Sure.
When they lost Megan Selby, that really hurt.
So, continued from a previous meeting, we'll open the next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a notice of intent by Nancy Bell for replacement of an existing retaining wall at 51 Fire Road 19.
How are you? My name is Santiago, you guys know me. So, the last conversation I had...
What's your company's name, Santiago?
Thunder Construction,
Thank you.
no problem. So, what they request to design to be with the job, the process the job is to protect the area with the water, so...
And to refresh your memory, her property's on Lake Shirley. And is your intent here, the settlement bill there, your intent to do this work during the drawdown, sir?
Yes.
And based on the sketch, just to make sure that we have this correct, it looks like the lines you're showing are essentially you're going to put a new wall where the existing wall is.
The existing wall we're gonna replace.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 feet up
Mm-hmm.
the ground, and we're gonna use the interlock block. So it's no cement, it's no, it's just interlock block with 3/4 stone inside.
And you're aware that you have to stay within the footprint of the existing wall. You can't come out into the resource area anymore, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Commissioner questions?
Is this the drawing that we'll actually use? There's no dimensions or anything on this drawing? This is a nice picture.
You actually, you had a rendering
Yeah,
with the heights. Do you have that with you?
I'm sorry, because the weather just forgetting my office, and I drive to look.
He actually does have a rendering, like an architectural style rendering that shows the dimensions of the wall. He was supposed to bring that with him tonight. I went over it with him
So it shows elevations and some reference in terms of where it is. 'Cause
Uh,
when we're all done.
He's
Yeah,
got it on
this
his phone.
you would like to see.
Yeah, no, I meant a drawing of the land that shows the dimensions of the wall from the house or something that, this is just a...
A more
construction.
specific site plan other than
Site
an
plan.
aerial photo with some lines on it.
Yes.
Was there one in the original?
There was
file?
one in the original, that's why I was
Do you have the original
confused
file
here.
now?
So I have existing wall.
How deep is the lake there? You know, off the shore?
It's upstairs, Ken.
Here's the reason I'm asking the question, is you show that the hay bales are 100 feet from the shore.
Yeah.
You know, and you're gonna do this during the drawdown, will the drawdown take the water down so it's...
100 feet out.
So that the lake bed is exposed for 100 feet from the shore?
That's got to be an incorrect dimension.
Yeah, 100 feet's too much.
Probably 10 feet.
Height.
What, how much room do you need? Are you going to bring equipment in? Is that why you need so much
We
room?
don't have space for equipment. We have to do everything by hand. So let's
Okay.
just remove the existing one, we put the new one in the same place.
Yeah. So I don't think we need 100 feet by any means.
I don't
And I don't think
think
you'll get it
we
either,
have
to your point.
Because this is in the cold bed.
It's pretty shallow,
It's in the
yes.
cold
It
bed
is.
of dam,
The wall's
that's
only a
correct.
foot into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So 100 feet, you may never get there with the
Yeah.
drawdown.
And that edge over there is pretty shallow. I mean,
Shallow for a while. I would think maybe 30 feet, or whatever you can, depends on the drawdown.
Yeah, I'd say 10. I think it's a typo,
Just
10
like last year, may not be, get anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think 10 feet would be more appropriate.
Just enough to work in,
Just to
yeah.
keep that area.
Yeah.
Well, but it's not a typo, it's actually in the text at the top.
Right. And there's no footing under the wall? What's the
No.
wall going to be on?
No.
'Cause
The wall already have a foundation.
it does now, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to remove the
So we're just
foundation?
gonna remove the top
And you're going to build on the existing
and
foundation.
install the interlock block.
On the existing foundation?
Exactly.
So the existing foundation won't be touched?
No.
That's
Perfect.
good. I like that.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
When you place the block, are you going to have any soil reinforcement that requires excavation behind the wall? So
No, we don't have a space for it. We don't have a space to bring machines.
Mhm.
And the wall already fall apart, so
Mhm.
it's just,
So you're gonna have to do it all by hand?
yeah.
What's the maximum height of the wall?
Can I say again?
What's the maximum height of the wall?
2 feet.
2 feet? Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Pretty short little.
Yeah.
Remember, we were out on site.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Better
Yeah, we're out.
So is that 3 courses and a cap?
Exactly.
Mhm.
If there was a better drawing than this I've seen.
I'm looking, Carl, hold on. There's this one.
That's getting better. But this,
That's just the house. I think it shows a wall on it, I think, too, doesn't it?
well, I was very confused. Maybe you could help, because is this supposed to be the wall, or is that the house?
That's the deck.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the deck, okay. So this doesn't show the wall at all.
Correct.
Maybe the rest of this drawing does. Is there another page to this? Because this drawing's cut off, obviously. There used to be the rest of
Yeah.
these. All right, so the wall isn't there.
So what
It's
we-
certainly not there,
Right.
because that don't look like this.
That's just,
I don't know what that is.
this is this section
just that
right
little
here.
piece
This
of it,
is the
right.
piece.
Geez, that's my job.
I was wondering who did this coloring.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job. Right
Well-
inside the lines.
I think what we'll need to approve this is a site plan that's a little more descriptive, that shows dimensions of the wall along there and calls out, in relation to the house where it is, those sorts of things for the file, because it appears we don't have that in the file. Just so we can document exactly, the length that you'll be excavating a wall.
It's 120 by 2 feet high.
Yeah, then we'll need that on the plan. I mean,
So what
But there
we're
are
looking
features.
for is a plot plan that shows like, here's the wall, here's the house, here's the property boundaries, That's what we typically get.
Do you have a
We'll
drawing
also,
of the house?
we'll also need
Usually there's no...
the drawing should show where your erosion protection will be, because the 100-foot dimension on this aerial photo that you've provided, this aerial plane you've provided, is in error, because if you were 100 feet out into the lake, you'd be probably down where there's still water.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good point.
So probably 10 feet.
yeah, so 10, 12 feet, whatever you guys need to have a safe working area that you can comfortably, come in and out, is fine, but it also needs to be on that updated site plan. I think
Because even I look at this, that red line doesn't follow the wall.
Agreed. We just need a complete file. We're not trying to be, whether it's a quick survey you shoot yourself and, a sketch or something like that, but we need a documented site plan. This was ours?
This is ours.
The document.
A site plan that shows the entire wall, where it falls in relation to the house on the property and all the other structures on the property, where the proposed erosion protection is, where the 30-foot wetland boundary is, where the 50-foot wetland boundary is, and where the 100-foot wetland boundary is. North arrow. These are things that Matt can help you with to guide you in what we expect on the plan. I think it's a pretty straightforward site in terms of what you're doing.
All the paperwork I bring before, this one, I forget his name,
Rich?
the Rich. He's the one asking for this one. He say, bring me this one, and then it's going to be enough. So I just bring what they asked me the last time, you know what I mean? I bring all the paperwork before I show you guys, but I can go back here, I guess, and do the measurements, and I'm just going to do the wall, but I can go over there and try draw something.
Matt, is there an easy, I know that assessors have plans that are, at least the lot is dimensioned. Is there something that...
The other thing I can say
They
is
could give
that
access to?
there's a septic design,
Yeah,
there's
there must be
construction
something,
recently,
right?
they did have it.
I'll check with the Board of Health's office tomorrow and see if I can get a septic plan
Yeah.
and use that as a
would show
reference.
the-
And then just draw the wall on it.
Yeah, and then just
Draw the
indicate
wall
what
on it.
part of the wall is replaced and...
So if that existing
Maybe a
plan is
dimension or
available, it'll
two,
be
right?
quite easy for you, because then you can just mark that up
Yeah.
quite easily.
And just some design on the wall.
Yes.
Height.
Okay.
So with your permission, we'll continue this to October 16th?
It's 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I cannot be over there. You can be here 2 weeks, no? Be better?
I'm not sure. I'm going to be in Maine. I'll try to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Brazil, so.
Well, we can continue at that time, and if you need to continue again, you can give Matt a call. And then we can just
Yeah, so you
continue
can go
on and have you on for the
to the next
1st
one.
November.
Maybe we should just schedule, if you know you're not going to be available, just schedule it from the November now.
Right, that's,
The drawdown will just have started,
well, that's why I think we need to put them on for the 16th. I think it would behoove you to, because that's going to be your window.
We'll put it on for the 16th. I'll work with Santiago and get what you guys just specified here. Get that done, and then, I'm assuming as long as the plans are to spec, that would be the only issue at this point. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that you guys have it properly a week in advance so you can look at them. That way, if you want other corrections, I can work with Santiago to make the other corrections.
Yeah, as long as it shows a plan, it has some dimensions on it, like Buck said, and then indicates where the wall is that's going to get replaced, so we know, similar to that.
So also, because it's been a while too, we're just going to send out a new abutter notification, because it's been a while for the next meeting. I can do that with Nancy. It's not a big
Are
deal.
you in your office tomorrow?
Oh yeah, I'll be here till 6.
I'll come in.
I work 10 to 6.
Sounds good.
Be here.
Very
You
good.
guys wanna leave this in the file?
Please.
Yes, please. So I'll accept the motion to continue to October 16th.
Okay. All right.
So
thank
moved.
you.
Second.
Motion second, roll call vote. Richard Burke?
Aye.
Bob Keys.
Aye.
Ken Jones. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We'll see you on the
Thank you.
16th. Thank you.
I like this paper. I like the paper used to print it off.
That's nice, huh?
High quality, well better than mine.
Open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended in the Section 239 Lunenburg General Bylaw, the Wetland Bylaw. Robert Evans has filed a notice of intent for installation of retaining wall at 4 Sunset Lane.
Mr. Chairman, I did get a written request for a continuance on that one. He's still working the issues out with the neighbor.
Okay, very good. I will accept a motion to continue to October 16th.
So moved.
We have a motion, second. Roll call vote, Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Section 40 and Section 239 of the Lunenburg General Bylaw, Greco Alonso has filed a notice of intent for remediation of riverfront and buffer zone at 260 Palula Road in Lunenburg and 100 Summer Street, Lunenburg.
Same thing, they're still working out with the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. I think they're actually supposed to be meeting with them tomorrow.
Okay, I will, so they request a continuance. I'll accept a motion for continuance to October 16th.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call vote, Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Moving right along, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Lunenburg Wetland Regulations, Section 335, Sean Farrow has filed a request for determination at 31 Round Road for repair of a boat ramp.
You guys had asked him to amend his plan to simply memorialize certain items he had on his property, trees, stone walls, etc. And he's done so. If you wanted to pass that around.
Let me just...
The 100-foot buffer wasn't on my previous plan either, so I put that in there.
Bob, can you just, for the commissioners' information, can you just detail what you updated on the plan for us?
So there was big oak trees that you guys asked me to put in there that
Mhm.
originally weren't on there. There was an existing stone wall that I'm not touching, that wasn't on the original plan, so I put that on there. And the 100-foot buffer.
Great.
I think you removed the patio too, is that?
Yeah, there was going to be another patio that was going to be within the 30 and within the 50 and the 100, and I took that out, so I'm just going to keep it on the outside of the 100. I think it would have affected the tree roots, and I don't want to go that route. So.
When do you intend to start the work?
Probably in the next few weeks.
The work on the ramp and along the beach, that's going to be done during the drawdown?
Yeah. That would probably take a day to do.
Okay. One of the things that we'd ask is that when you're doing that work and you're doing the earthwork in the vicinity of the wetland resource, that you put a line of straw wattles, erosion protection,
Sure.
just to make sure we catch all that,
No problem.
any potential runoff.
Yep.
Any questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion for a -3 determination with a caveat that the repair of the boat ramp and the addition of sand at the existing beach will be conducted with erosion protection between that work and the wetland resource.
What, he's gonna have to put erosion protection, add sand to the beach?
Yes.
What happens when the water comes up? It's got on the road.
While he's doing the work, if he
Any
has a big pile or...
on the erosion protection?
Well, I can put it in, and, once it's kind of stabilized and not loose anymore, because, sand compacts over time, I can pull that erosion out. Pull the water out.
I don't know if you know, but Sean's one of the principals at S&M Farm.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we give it a negative determination and he has to put straw wattles around where he's working on the boat ramp.
Second?
Motion second. Roll call vote.
Any discussion? Just,
Discussion, go ahead.
I was just looking at the notes here. I remember I watched this on the video, so when I filled out my Mullins. The sand on the beach is 3 tons. I seem to remember like 2 yards or something. Is that what 3 tons is? It says 3 tons.
Yeah.
I just don't know the conversion times or the number that Richard had said. Okay. That's all. And I think we need this signed, right?
Oh, he didn't sign it. Sean, can you sign that?
Sure.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
What was do you know what the date of the original hearing was? It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was 18.
No other comments or discussion. We'll take a roll call vote. Richard Bursch.
Rich?
I have the updated plans. I abstained where I don't have the updated plans.
Okay.
All right. Bob Thies.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
All right.
You're all set. Thank you very much. We'll open our next continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Lunenburg Wetland Regulations, Section 335. Suzanne Delisle has filed a request for determination at 235 Island Road for removal of 6 trees, addition of understory plantings, and removal of hazardous standing deadwood. Removal of approximately 500 square feet of impervious surface, and the replacement of 220 square feet of a 220 square foot walkway and the installation of a swimming pool within the buffer zone of a wetland resource area.
Hi, I'm Mark Hirsch here representing Susan Delisle.
Just one quick thing, Mr. Chair. As Mark is my brother, I will be recusing myself from this hearing.
Thank you.
Matt should have a plan as well. I have another one if somebody wants one. This is a plan done when the property was built back in 2003. And in looking at the file, the septic is not, the leach bed is not where it is delineated on the file. There's an as-built that shows it across the front of the property. If you have the plan that I brought, I don't have another copy of that.
This is the as-built?
Yeah, that's this plan right here. That's not the as-built. I had a plan that I brought Matt that showed what she wanted to do.
You mean this?
No, there's one of these that I drew on that I gave to you as well.
It looks like it's under there somewhere.
Yep. So she wants the ability to,
This is the one wrong, right?
no, pictures. Did you get a chance to see any of the pictures that I sent as well?
235 Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got the structures he's proposing.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So this is there's the proposed plan, there's another one that goes with this.
Should be right under it. You mean this?
Yeah. Yep. So this shows pre-existing conditions. So there's a patio now.
Hold on, I can walk around it.
If anybody wants to scroll through, I got some site photos. So those are the pre-existing conditions that like shows the patio. And he wants to do is remove the brick pavers and the trees that are flagged because of the proximity to her home. She's looking for permission to put an enclosed porch in the center and 2 decks on either side, as well as to be able to put a pool. It'll be within a 100-foot, but it'll be outside the 50-foot buffer zone to put an in-ground pool in that area as well. And there is an as-built in the system, or in the file, that shows this is out here. That is dated after this plan.
Where's the location of the proposed pool?
It's to the side of the house. So it's outside the 50-foot buffer, but on this side.
Where the originally proposed leach field was, you're
Where it
gonna
was,
be in that vicinity.
where it was originally, yes.
Where it was proposed.
Right.
No, I was right out there.
Yeah, this is not...
That was Suzanne Dudley's.
No, that's this plan. That's a copy of this, and that's what I did the takeoff on.
So the proposed pool, is it going to be a gunite pool, a fiberglass pool, is there going to be a deck around it?
This is our first meeting,
Okay.
so we want to see what your requirements are going to be, so we can go from there.
Generally for the pool, we'd want to see all of the dimensions of the pool as well as the appurtenances around it. Any trenches or piping you need if you're going to have the filters removed from the pool or something like that. Any sort of excavation in that buffer zone you propose, we'd just like to see where they're going to be and so we can understand exactly what you're going to do on the site.
Okay.
So they're going to do a cartridge filter?
What?
Are they going to do a cartridge filter?
I have no idea. So maybe the idea is maybe we do this in a couple. Is it better to do it all as one?
Yes, it's better to do it all as
Okay.
one. But what I'm saying is, the filter units, because of its location in the buffer zone, the filter units themselves, what I've often done as standard practice, and it's the same money. It's instead of having a backwash filter, you have a cartridge filter that basically the top just pops up, they take it off the front of the driveway, goes it off, pop it back in. No backwash involved, easy to maintain. Actually lasts a little bit longer than a standard sand filter.
So the best thing then is to have her get a spec from a pool vendor on what she would put in there?
Well, whoever she's using for a pool vendor should be able to just send her one automatically.
Okay. I'm not sure she is even to that level. So how long does this determination last?
3 years.
Okay. So, I'm sure we have some information we have to grab on that then.
You know myself, personally, Matt, I think in-ground swimming pool and a deck and things like that in a wetland resource area, to me, I think that should be an NOI.
Actually, if it's greater than 50 feet, the state exempts them.
Really?
It's not cutting any trees down.
There's no trees in the area where the pool is going.
Now, under state law, if you're putting in an in-ground pool or an above-ground pool, and you're greater than 50 feet from the edge, and you're not taking down any trees, it's exempt. Totally.
Well, I guess backing up to the structures that they're talking about putting in. Patios here, this is going to be the same footprint?
Pretty much the same
Patio.
footprint as the patio.
What's going to be...
This line is not coming out any further, but over here, there's a...
So this will be a
walkway, right.
What's
Right.
going to be the construction of the enclosed porch?
So the idea is a deck with so it's not going to have a foundation. It's going to probably be a deck on sonotubes with an enclosure on top.
And that'll all be at the same, these decks will
All
all
at
be
the
at the same
same
level.
level.
That'll be construction, that'll just have a roof over it.
Right.
So where is the...
So basically, the whole thing's a deck, but this part is enclosed with a deck.
Right.
With a roof roof.
Right. And I believe it's supposed to be screened?
Yeah. It says enclosed.
Yeah, it's going to be enclosed.
So what's
I don't think it's a full-blown...
I can't see from here, where in relation to the wetland is how close is the deck?
It's all within the 50.
It's all within the 50.
Well, a portion of it, no. A portion of it's within the 50.
Probably
So personally, anything with a roof on it,
Is this 50?
if the screened-in porch has a roof in it and it falls within the 50, in my view, that's impervious and that's a structure.
There's already impervious surface there.
But that's what I'm trying to find. Where's the impervious surface that's being removed?
Patio.
Well, if we're going to continue
That's not
this,
impervious,
we should
so-
all sidewalk
You see
it
the
on our
pictures?
next round.
They're just
I
big
agree.
blocks.
Absolutely.
I agree. I think it's...
Just calls for a sidewalk.
I don't think, I don't think we would consider this patio impervious. It's more pervious than patios we let people put in and
If
claim to be impervious.
it is repaired, if she repairs that to its
Original
original,
condition,
it
yeah.
would be
it's
an
not gonna
impervious
be-
surface.
Yeah.
Because I would seal the joints on the pavers, and it would
Exactly.
be an impervious surface.
Yeah.
Well,
So you're not
if you
really
seal them with-
expanding it.
with the right material.
I think your biggest issue is the roof over the...
So, we looked at a couple options. If we went to outside the 50, this side deck here, she would consider moving the enclosure to the side, which would be outside the 50. Majority would be outside the
Majority,
50.
yeah, still
I think that would be
More appropriate.
good,
Good
but I
start,
think,
yeah.
I also think it would be to our benefit to make these decisions after the site walk as well.
Yeah.
I think the thing is because we're going to have to continue it anyway, because you want to know certain specs, which we're telling you now.
Right.
So it probably would be a good idea if we were able to go on the site walk and the stuff that you're explaining here at the desk,
Yep.
they'd be able to see on site, and it would give everybody a better idea of where everything is. Because, I mean, like, I can see in a couple of the members here, the hamsters are spinning the wheel pretty hard, and I can't say I blame them because they haven't had the benefit, so.
Okay. So, when do we do the sidewalk?
We'll do it the Saturday before the next meeting. Next meeting is the 16th, so
So it'll be
that,
the 12th.
the 12th.
Okay. Is it something that's scheduled that I can let the homeowner know and I can be there as well? And
Mm-hmm.
It'll be between 9 and 11 o'clock in the morning, which is when we do our sidewalks.
Okay.
Couldn't we, if they're going to meet us, like schedule... it
9 o'clock.
First one, 9 o'clock.
We'll be there at 9 o'clock.
Okay, and that's Saturday before.
And the day after is my birthday, so I want cake.
As long as it doesn't cost more than $50.
There you go.
If you go to Walmart, they do a really nice one with, the buttercream frosting for about 12.
For those viewers at home, this is a joke.
So, Saturday...
Everybody knows it's a joke.
So Saturday the 12th?
Be surprised.
That's true too.
Okay.
So, one thing I'm looking for on the plan, is this the 50?
Yeah, I think some people thought this was, but it's
No.
not.
Yeah, so if this is the 50 here, it looks
So
like...
even if that is,
It looks like we might, well, we still might be close to the 30. So most of the work is within the 30 to 50 zone. It appears in this edge, we need to delineate on the plan where the 30-foot boundary is.
Okay.
And update the plan moving forward so we can understand where it falls within the buffer zone. So
Wasn't there a 30-foot on the pre-existing already?
So can I update off of this plan, or are you going to require my client to have a...
no, but I think you can update off of that plan. I mean,
can scale it.
You can scale it right off and
Yeah.
add the boundary. The proposed, you said you're going to use sonotubes, so the location of the sonotubes, to the best of what you can discern, if you're going to have 8 or 10 or whatever you need, just so we know where the locations are. And
The 14th might not work for me, Matt. Can I maybe meet you
The 12th,
Friday?
you mean?
Or the 12th? Yes.
Well, it's the commission you need to meet, not me.
Oh, but are you going to be on the sidewalk?
Yes.
So if we can probably maybe meet that Friday before, if that's
That's
possible.
up to you guys.
Because I can't,
Oh, you want to meet with me?
I would like to meet with you to go over what I'm trying to do out there, so that you can, I'm not available on the 12th.
Okay. I can do that, yeah.
That's the problem, just to kind of go over, what we're trying to do out there.
Yeah. Or even if the homeowner was
Yep.
available on that day, that would be helpful too.
And in terms of the pool, if we're,
Yeah,
if it's, from what Matt said, and I'm been married a long time, so I'm used to being wrong, so if what Matt said is correct, and it's really not, falls within our jurisdiction, we may not need to add it in the plan at all.
so the
But
pool might fall outside, because it's outside the 50 foot.
as long as you keep it outside that 50, yeah, I think from what Matt said.
go ahead, Bob.
So it's inside the 100, you wouldn't even have to put it on the plan? I have a hard,
Yeah.
You talking about the pool?
pool, yeah.
Well, I mean, he could put the pool on the plan to show where it's going under the determination so that we have a location.
But are you saying it's not in our jurisdiction?
Is it exempt under our bylaw?
No, what I'm saying is under state regulation, because he was talking about an NOI, under state regulation, because he's not removing any trees, it would be totally exempt under state regs. Under our local bylaw, it qualifies for the negative, which is the process we've been using to deal with
Okay.
exemptions that aren't listed in the bylaw per se. So, yeah, we'd have to draw a location on the plan.
Okay. But do you need to know
So,
gunite, fiberglass?
well, so...
No,
so-
we're just looking for the limit of the box outline of the work area in relation to the wetland material. I mean, it's all standard stuff.
So if you have a general pool dimension and maybe a deck outside it, that you're going
Okay.
to try and get a limit of work where you think the pool will be and any areas of additional excavation you may have to construct it.
Okay.
That's what we want to see on an
I
updated
think
plan. at
the
minimum.
only thing we'd want on the pool would be a spec on the cartridge filter,
Okay.
which is basically, they use different manufacturers, all they'd have to do is just zing one over to me,
Okay.
by an email.
Okay.
All right.
I will, I'll touch base with you then tomorrow or the next day.
Any other
No, it sounds great.
any other questions from the public?
It doesn't have to be Thursday or Friday, I mean, we can go out on
Yeah.
any time that's good for you next week, you know?
Good. Seeing none, and with the applicant's permission, we'll continue this meeting until October 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, roll call vote. Bob Pease,
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We'll see you on the 16th.
What would...
He's with you.
Oh, he...
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I need one of those.
Matt, I'm gonna leave them.
Oh, one?
You guys too, that's like fine. And then,
Passing that to me.
Richard, you back now? We might have to call him again.
No, he's there.
No, I'm here.
All right, very good. Open our next hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Lunenburg Wetland Regulations, Section 335, Town of Lunenburg, in the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation, filed a notice of intent for the approval of a lake management program for Lake Shirley.
Hey, before we do that, I
Yes.
was just wondering if we could get the certificate of compliance from Mr. Grasowitz out of the way for Danny Gardner, so he doesn't have to wait. The engineer's here.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Joanna, she said it was okay, because it's not going to take as long as this meeting.
Okay, since I just opened that hearing, should we
Well, you
recess?
started to, but I interrupted you before you could finish.
Very good. We can do that. Sure. So, certificate of compliance for 101 Pleasant Street.
Good evening, Paul Grasowitz, Grass Engineering. We were,
And I'm Mike Duran with Milligan Rona. I'm going to let Paul take this, he's the expert here. But I'll just represent Danny Gardner.
this project goes back way before my involvement. I was called up here recently to go look at some restoration work that Danny Gardner was doing on his site. It was a plan done by Whitman and Bingham a few years ago. And I went out and looked at what he had done. I wrote a letter on September 10th saying that essentially the work was done in accordance, the public were removed, and the work was done essentially in conformance with the Whitman and Bingham plan, except some stone wicks that were on the plan said asked to be removed, and it was my understanding the commission felt that the vegetation has grown up through them and around them, so those are left in place. Matt asked for an as-built, so we went out there, we took the Whitman and Bingham plan, we did our own survey to locate the stream, the restoration areas, and provided this plan here. And then Matt asked for some additional information, and we made a small revision to it. So basically, I think we're there. Yeah, the work was done, the regrading was done, the area was loam, seeded, hayed. I don't know, it's my understanding that he got some growth going already, but I haven't seen that. Obviously, it's,
There is growth.
hasn't had a whole lot of time to grow and fully established. Put a good layer of hay down to help keep it get through the winter.
Any comments from the commission?
Matt, you've been on site.
Yep, I was on site, and Carl, were you on site after you did the work or before?
Certainly after the culvert got done.
Yep, that's right, after the culvert. And he did do the correct plantings, because the specs he had before was a meadow planting. And he went back and got the wetland seed mix and put that down.
Beautiful.
Some of that is starting to germinate, but I mean, obviously, it's still got a little ways to go. But the area is well established as far as its erosion protection. The stone wicks, I think, leaving them in place, from my own opinion, is a good thing because it's promoting the hydraulic connection between the wetland on one side of the road and the wetland that abuts that little pond area. And actually, that particular wetland seed mix, you could see it was a New England wetland plants mix because of the species that were in there. Wool grass, common sedge, nut sedge. There's some beggar ticks out there, really pretty yellow flowers. It's looking pretty good.
This is Mike. I'll just add that in the order, I believe the property owner requested that the order of conditions be extended. I believe that was denied because the commission thought that the work is done. I believe the idea is that the work is done. So hopefully not extending the order of conditions is okay and not going to allow the future property owner to get sideways with the commission. I'll just point that out.
By future property owner, he means Mr. Gardner, because right now, technically, Cathal Brady still owns it.
Got it.
So if there's no extension, he'd have to file a new notice of intent.
Either that or we finish the rest of it under the enforcement order.
This closing.
Yeah, that was the discussion we had, Ken, with Dan's attorney.
Yeah.
Was that any work that needed to be done at this point was minimal and could be done under an enforcement order rather than continuing an order of conditions out further.
And I should just say, I hope we're not looking at some sort of immediate enforcement order because, he's trying to refinance the property right now.
So we're talking, when we say enforcement order, we're talking what they call a friendly enforcement order.
Got it.
In other words, if there's no order of conditions and we need remedial work done, the law and regulation does allow us to finish the work under an enforcement order.
Sure.
And, I've coordinated some of those with Paul in the past on
Okay.
stormwater issues, so.
Okay.
And I'll comment through you, Mr. Chair. I
Yes.
was on site before I left, and it did appear that the remedial work was done according to the plan and the application presented by Whitman and Bingham. My only concern, of course, would be in allowing a partial certificate of compliance to allow for the vegetation to completely regrow. We do have an as-built plan, and it does state that restoration appears to be done in accordance with the plan. So at this point, I myself would have no problem issuing a partial certificate of compliance.
So the remaining condition will be to allow the vegetation to establish itself, and then we close that section out.
Correct.
Understood.
Bob? So you left the stone wicks, and it sounds like everyone likes the idea, but I don't understand. I thought the stone wicks were like under the road, because there was fill on both sides. And they allowed the water to go, pass through the fill to get to the other side. If the fill's been removed, I don't understand why why we still need the
Because
stone.
the access road is still in place.
Oh, it is
That's
still
in the
in
middle of the access road, that's why. I should have made that more clear, I'm sorry.
So this did not take out the access road, the access road is still there?
The access road coming off the frontage on Pleasant Street is still there. The culvert is removed. The culvert and the fill in the floodplain that was going under the power line easement, that's all been
The access
removed.
road is on the plan, on the approved plan.
The access road was a pre-existing road. It's been established for a long time, but when he did some vegetation removal and some grading
There was some fill.
behind 127 Pleasant, he had brought some fill in.
So the wick was going through the pre-existing fill, the fill from the pre-existing road that was there before this all started.
Yes.
I understand now, thank you.
Any additional comments from commissioners?
Just some sort of fuzzy on the partial certificate of compliance.
You can issue a partial certificate of compliance on a project. There is a designated spot on the form
Yeah,
that specifies partial, and you specify the remaining work that needs to be completed on the form.
okay.
So when that form gets recorded on the deed, it releases it in part. It releases the order in part, but holds the remaining work that needs to be done on the deed until we issue a supplemental certificate.
And in this case, that would be just to make sure that the vegetation takes hold.
That is correct.
Okay, good, okay.
Yeah, what are
Bob,
comments?
just to answer your question quick on the stone wicks, they were put in so that the water didn't overtop the gravel road and just wash out the gravel road. So they were put in so that it didn't lower the water table on the uphill side, just to keep the road from eroding.
And they actually seem to be working very well. I got to admit, I was skeptical at first, but they seem to be doing pretty well.
If there are no other comments from the commissioners, any comments from the public, then I will accept the motion for a partial certificate of compliance condition being built. Establishment of the vegetation is the only remaining condition.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Richard Birch,
Aye.
Bob Pease,
Aye?
Ken Jones. Aye. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
All right, so I will get the form ready for their signatures, and I will talk to town council tomorrow if you could complete the agreement on the fine payment scheduling.
Yes. Yes, I need to hear from Adam, but...
Yeah, I think he was just waiting to see what we did with this.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'll call him tomorrow and we'll get moving on that.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Upstairs for me.
All right. Why don't we, if anyone has to use the restroom or anything, Carl took a break. Why don't we recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll open this. Without further ado, we'll open our next hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40. In the Lunenburg Wetland Regulations, Section 335, the Town of Lunenburg and the Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation have filed a notice of intent for approval of a lake management program at Lake Shirley.
Good evening, I am Wendy Jenrin. I'm sure you know me by now. Do you mind if I sit?
Please.
No, please.
Please do so.
I'm with Aquatic Restoration Consulting, and we had that first hearing, and then thank you very much for meeting again last week. And since that time, I've gone through that outline again, and my notes from that meeting, and I've updated the notice of intent. Just the project description document. I added this discussion about the targets. I added measures to preserve Pumagina rabinzii, which is the plant that I thought was of concern. I added a table with more plant impacts associated with the drawdown. I added a description on how the drawdown is accomplished. I added expanded discussion on the monitoring to include vegetation as well as water quality. I added a communication/notification plan in the event of a fish kill. I added a discussion on the reporting. And I added a correspondence with the Division of Fish and Wildlife, including the natural heritage in the appendix.
So natural heritage was all set?
Yes.
It was in the appendix.
Yeah, I saw it. I just didn't have a chance to read that part of it. I was reading the tables.
Yeah, and I provided both a red line strikeout to kind of give you guys a easier way of looking at what I
Yes,
changed.
that was very helpful. Thank you.
I did a few minor wordsmithing after I accepted it and read it. I had to do a few minor edits, but the intent of the discussion remains the same.
Hey, did we add Caleb's update to the 6-foot? Did you say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the copy that I just printed out didn't have it, but I thought I did some email screenshots for Caleb's discussion where he...
He acknowledged the 4 to 6 foot.
Right, and he said, well, because the applicant said 4 to 6 feet, I put down 5, but 6 feet is acceptable. So we do have that correspondence.
Okay.
So, Matt,
Thank
Yes.
you for reminding me.
you're welcome. That was an action item of mine when we left last week.
Okay. Comments from the commissioners?
I thought the changes, as far as I could tell, they met
Sorry,
all
the call
of
got
the discussion.
disconnected. Check firewall settings and try again.
Sorry.
From the prior meetings. My question for the chair is, at the last meeting, there was a discussion about drafting of an order of conditions and where we were in that process.
So
Alexa.
we have drafted special conditions that we may be able to go over
Calling
here.
Rich's Alexa
I think we
devices.
could actually take, you give me that HDMI cable? I think I can put them up and we can go through them. So a lot of the conditions that you updated with your attachment B, we've also incorporated within a draft of the special conditions, and I think it makes sense for everybody to take a look at what the draft looks like for the special conditions to make sure, everybody agrees.
Mr. Chairman, just for a procedure point, I don't know how you want to handle this, because I did first see you in person. I've seen you a lot on TV, many hours today. And it's great that the workshop was taped also, because I could watch that, which is much better than listening to a tape, so you actually get a better feel. So, a general comment, I'm, very happy with the direction all the discussions have been going, and your contributions and your openness and your knowledge that you're bringing to it. So it's very reassuring. And it means a lot, because it's the intent is very important. What you put in the words is important too, but to get people in the right mindset. But I do have a number of my own things after going through all those that I would like to put on the table at some point. And I don't know if you want to do that before we go through the order of conditions and have that discussion. Or
Why don't we do that first? And maybe in the meantime, I might be able to get Matt to print this out.
Alexa, call Rich's Alexa.
Are you blowing in her ear?
Yes.
Calling Rich's Alexa devices.
There you go.
So, Matt, did I copy you on this?
Thank you.
Yeah, you did.
Can we print that out so, and Carl can express his concerns tomorrow, we'll get it printed out, and then we can,
Okay.
go through it.
So he can see the television.
And Rich probably has that electronically as well.
All right. Rich, do you have a copy of the red line proposed ordering stuff?
The one that Todd and I were working on, yes, I do.
Okay. And Carl, why don't you go ahead? and
Okay,
that.
great.
I'll just make sure I email you the latest version.
Yeah, and they're not all...
Send it to LCC, please.
They're not all concerns, but, there was a lot of good learning went on, but I didn't get to learn some of the things that also. So a little more learning is appropriate here. But one question I have is, to start at the high level. The lake management plan still exists, but it's not clear how or if that ties in now to the work.
That one?
So what's the relationship between the notice of intent, the lake management plan, and we'll have an order of conditions? What are the relationships with those?
My understanding is the lake management plan was crafted by Solutu with the Lake Shirley Improvement Corps to meet the intent of condition that was put forth in terms of, what's the overall plan for the lake. And within the Lake Shirley Improvement Corps, they look at mostly in-lake work because they're not looking at the watershed per se. And so that, pieces of that, when Solo2 developed their herbicide plan, were incorporated into the notice of intent. So the notice of intent is really just seeking the permission, the jurisdiction that the Commission has over the Wetlands Protection Act to do those techniques that are referenced in the Lake Management Plan. The Lake Management Plan also went through the alternatives analysis, which is basically included in here as well.
Yeah. So I understand the history of the Lake Management Plan, but from a document point of view, is the Lake Management Plan now outside of this, in your opinion, or is it part of the notice?
Well, it's referenced, it's incorporated by reference in here.
So
I don't
only as-
really think
only-
there really isn't much difference, honestly, between the Lake Management Plan and what's in here, especially in terms of the techniques that were recommended and how they're going to be implemented. There's actually more detail now in this notice of intent than there was in that Lake Management Plan.
Yeah, let me just use one example
Yes.
for you that's always been an area of concern for me, and this is sort of my next area of investigation. In the Lake Management Plan, it says pretty specifically, it's been used to define what areas get treated. If it's a 3 or a 4, in either category of biomass or density, that area gets treated. And that's been how the decisions have been made.
Yes.
That's not in the notice of intent based on the discussions and the revision. It's more driven by, there's going to be a survey, a proposal, a discussion, and then a decision of areas to be treated.
Correct.
Okay?
So I would say for the purposes of compliance with the permit that you provide, you go by the notice of intent, not the management plan.
Okay, great. Okay. So in that example, great. So the management plan, so in a hierarchy of documents, it's really the order of conditions, the notice of intent, and then the lake management plan.
Right, because this
By reference.
becomes a legal document
Right.
that's measured for compliance.
Good. Okay, good. Just want to make sure so we don't get tangled up in, which document is ruling at any one point in time.
And they're pretty similar, as you probably read,
extremely.
that when I did the literature search, I've always heard about the 40%, and in terms of cover for plants, that's
Right.
ideal for fisheries. But the way the surveys are currently done, they don't measure that 40, they don't say 40 plus, 40 minus.
Right.
So together, it's really the same category, so it doesn't say too much different.
Yes.
But the idea is, especially with the Commission's concerns about the natives, is to do that pre-treatment survey and then recommend it. And if there's also areas, even if they're at that category 3 or 2, if it's primarily like Portmeating, Rabinsii, very beneficial, they wouldn't treat that. So it's kind of a little bit more protective.
Yeah.
than the-
So that's good. And that's exactly the right direction. Why I was encouraged by all the discussions. I just want to confirm.
And to follow on to that is if they have areas that they anticipate during treatment time, well, while the weeds may be low during the survey, they exceed that, they'll note that while this area may be a 2, we intend to treat based on our projected growth.
Right, yeah. But what I like is that there'll be a discussion before the final decision, as opposed to, it's a 4, or it's a 3, so we treat, end of story. So, good. The term, even in the GIR, nuisance vegetation is used. And when it comes to a native plant, what is nuisance? What level do you have to get to create a nuisance for a native plant?
How they do it, but they do define it potentially human-induced or human nuisance. It's in the guidance for, I have it with me, if you don't mind getting up. This document, are you familiar with this one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in there. It's just one little descriptive of it, so it's pretty loose. I might not be able to find it.
So that's okay, I can
It's in
find it.
here.
But there's to give you a little guidance on
Right. I mean,
what would create a nuisance. is what
Right,
I'm
I mean,
looking
the intent is they recognize, the wetland protection recognizes that plants can be, aggressive plants, whether they're native or not, can impact negatively the environment, and so that's how they're getting it.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I think our example clarified this for me because it was a concern. I think I've heard good things. That because the native plants that are desirable, the robin's pondweed,
Yes.
right? Or native plants that stay low in the water column and just create good habitat. It seems to me, and this is more of my learning from it. It seems to me that even a density over 50% of that kind of a plant is not a bad thing.
Well, it could be and couldn't be, so...
But by definition, it's not bad because it's over 50%.
Right. I mean, you have to, it's a plant species specific, how thick does it grow? So if you had an area, I'm not saying this is the condition, but you had an area that is completely a monoculture of a native plant, and it completely covers spawning ground, it's probably not a beneficial plant.
Right. But it would be based on other factors other
Yes,
than the density,
exactly.
the type.
And that's why it's important to have a biologist look at point by point and make that determination.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Because there's actually some invasive plants that aren't so bad.
Ooh, that sounds like blasphemy.
I should say invasive, there's non-native.
Non-native, there you go.
The definition of nuisance is non-indigenous invasive plants constitutes nuisance vegetation. However, significant increases in indigenous plant species that strongly linked to human activities may also be considered.
Yes, that was what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Good. Okay. On the treatment, when we do, I'll try to go through my list as quick as I can here. I forget which chemical it was, if it was the reward or it might have been the clipper, but one of the data sheets talked about at least was a caution when there's high pH levels during the treatment. Does that ring a bell?
I don't remember if that would have been a good question for Dominic.
One of the two that we used this last time, because when they
Never use Clipper.
not teak or the reward.
So there's a caution with copper with a low pH.
Okay, so maybe it was
Not a high
teak.
pH, yeah. So that I do know about. So, but you're talking super low pHs that you have other problems going on before that becomes a real toxicity.
So my only thought when I saw that was when at the time of treatment or close to it, should we take a pH just to see where it is?
Well, pH generally doesn't change very quickly. So I think there's enough historical data that shows that the range of pH within this water body is fine. So you're talking pHs of 5 is where that becomes a toxicity. And it's just that the toxicity increases as you go lower pH. And I think the same scale is actually true on the high end as well. So as soon as that pH gets out of whack, you're affecting toxicity.
Yeah, I thought it was high also, and we've seen high pH though.
Well, what do you call high?
I thought the data we got was like up in the 8s.
8s, that wouldn't be it. You're talking 9s, 10s, that would be a little problematic. 8 you're going to get with plant and algal production. When they photosynthesize, you'll see in an area that's highly productive, you'll see the pH change during the day, but then it goes back down. That's why we kind of look at like the averages.
And for this notice of intent so far, we're only still requesting the reward and not tea and copper-based products.
Correct.
And nothing for the fan wart yet.
Well, diquat can be somewhat effective. There are better herbicides out there, but with that better herbicide for fanwort comes a much higher cost.
Yeah, and a lot of other things too.
Right.
But that's not part of this notice.
No, we agreed that we would come back to the commission if they wanted to use another herbicide.
Great. And the monitoring points, I think the ones there's 2 sets out in the world. The one that I think is in notice of intent that was created by Solitude, And then there's another set that the commission had gone through with the updated order of conditions, which actually had a couple fewer points to be monitored, but slightly different locations. And I don't know if you had looked at those two
No.
and decided which one was better or worse?
I didn't.
Is it
For
one
me, I
like
like
66, the other 64 point something?
No, this is the clarity testing, and then when you hit the 5-foot trigger, where you take the...
Oh, you're trying, okay, not the plant survey.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I meant the monitoring, the water quality monitoring.
Oh, yeah, I didn't pick up on any difference there.
And so maybe we could just talk about it a little bit.
This one, Carl?
That's the one that's in the notice of intent. It's not the one that we had in our order of conditions.
Okay. And you're referring to the April amended order?
Yeah, the amended order. I forget what month it was now. But this one. And the only differences were, maybe for discussion,
I thought this was real cute.
So, the X's are the, let's see.
The yellow
primary-
X's.
The primary locations, right? Those are the three in this per plan. And we had proposed that one's very historic and is good, and that one's very historic. Never gives us much because it's so deep. It's always pretty good anyway, so we don't get a lot of information there. But there should be one in the Middle Lake. And we had added one, instead of this one, we had to put one in the Middle Lake. Because right now, we get no clarity information. With this plan, we get no clarity information about the Middle Lake until bad things happen. So we had in our order proposed to eliminate that one, which is pretty shallow over there anyway, and to have one in the Middle Lake, which has always been in all the order conditions, I've always said, in the three basins.
Right. Joanna, I don't have the historic knowledge of the San Juan sites. Do you recall that change? And
We've never done the middle basin because it flows out from the first right through to the second. There's never been a big algae issue within the second lake, if you will, because of the water flowing from.
But every order of conditions, Shirley's and Lunenburg's have always called out all three basins. So I guess, why would we want another data point there and not one here?
I think that might be because, and this is just going by the reports that I read, that North Basin seems to be the worst
Yes.
condition. So the idea was to get it in the further north, within the North Basin, the worse it gets. So it's basically probably where that inlet, major inlet is coming in. So I think that's probably, I don't know for sure, but why that station was established.
We've always taken that one and that one, or essentially taking these two, so no disagreement with that. But feel that we really should have more data on this Middle Basin. This one, they serve us well, and until it goes below 5, we don't do anything else.
Right. Have you ever had a situation where Middle Basin blooms before the North?
No, but this will catch the Northern Basin. This is always about
Right.
the Northern
So then
Basin.
I don't, well, I see there's always a desire to have more data. I don't know
No,
what
it's not
that's
more. I'm
going
saying get rid of this one
to get rid of that one.
and use this. And
I think that's where it starts, though, is that northern point. That's
So-
where the water's coming in, where the phosphate
The
nitrate's
worst
very
condition-
high.
condition,
So
that's-
that's really where you're going to see it reduced first. So I think it's important to keep that one. And the middle basin
well,
really never
the
gets much of
history
an
of
impact.
the very first sightings, and Joanna could confirm this because she was involved, the very first sightings have usually been in this cove in here. It's almost like it flushes through here, but this cove,
Well, it's because all those coves on the north, where you pointed out, Carl, those are shallow coves without any moving water.
Yeah.
So
Is he at Pearl or May? Are you at the May Cove or Pearl Cove?
outside of Kings, I don't know what you call it.
That's May, May Street, right?
Yeah,
And
we're
then
Kings, so
Sullivan,
remember?
Brenda Sullivan lives on Pearl.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing that I would say is it's always nice to have long-term data, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, Joanne, do you want to
Well, we have
comment?
no
You're
data.
folks
The only
do
data
all the
we-
volunteer monitoring.
Can I ask a question? Tammy Lovell, 579 Rosenborg Road.
I know the chief.
So
Yes, ma'am.
the points that are currently being tested and have been historically tested, would those, I'm assuming, were recommended by the consulting company, the
Mhm.
biologists and people with the PhDs. So may I ask by what authority you're thinking that those people aren't making the right recommendation of what places to test on?
The only places that have always been tested are these two.
Right, but those are the recommendations by
And we agree with those.
Solitude.
We agree with those two.
So what do you,
There's one been added, and the one that's been added is up here.
right, but that's,
Every
that
order
position's
condition-
been recommended by the biologists.
So I guess based on Carl's comment, Wendy, can you comment on, is there a benefit, in your opinion, to moving the point that's closest to the inlet of the Catacumba into the second basin and maybe slightly adjusting the one that's in the center of the north basin north? So we still only have 3 points, but the 3 points cover each basin. Would there be a benefit to that as opposed to what's shown here?
I have a question. Is there anybody in the room that does the testing?
For algae,
Well, for
That's-
the...
For the
She's talking
Secchi disc.
Okay.
the sucky disc is Richie Patriot.
We don't do it.
Right. Yeah.
Hold on.
I'd be interested to hear what her response.
I agree.
So, given that I've read, the data that I've read suggests that the North Basin is usually the first sign of a problem, that I would not want to get rid of that one that was been added. I don't know if there's really a benefit of adding yet another one in the middle basin. I see your point. I don't know how much effort that would really be to do.
So my next question, Carl, is would it make more sense where the one in the southern basin is a little deeper, that second basin is actually a little shallower, and it has more substantial weed growth across that basin during the season? Would it be more beneficial maybe to slide the one in the south basin over on the other side of that point?
I'm trying not to fool around with the historical data, but I can tell you that that point, from a Secchi disc point of view and an algae point of view, provides no information. Algae never gets to the third. It gets into the second, but it never gets into the third. So if you use that as a
What about
rationale,
general turbidity, like
Never.
stirring of sediments?
never.
That's
This is
near
30
the
feet
deepest
deep
part of the
right
lake.
there. It's 30 feet deep.
So it's deeper towards
So
the
if you look
east
at
side of that
it's-
point
it's always-
than it is on the
You try it,
west
it's-
side.
it doesn't have any value. I would have done that to begin with, but I didn't want to mess around. That point gives us very little information.
Well, why
Other
don't
than
we,
oxygen and,
Why don't we add it for like a year and see what the data show? If they show a difference between the middle basin and the south basin, and if there's no difference...
If there's no difference,
then we don't need to keep doing it.
I think that's...
Which one would be dropped?
We'd add one for a year.
And there's no cost associated with this because it's just,
There's volunteer time associated with taking one more reading.
No, there would be cost associated with that, would there not? If their clarity rating drops below 5, do we not have to do samples in each location where it's below 5?
I would say that it would be just that green diamond, which is Secchi disc only.
As a Secchi disc only?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Joanne, are you comfortable with that? Sorry, I keep acknowledging people.
No, it's fine. You're the representative and you need their input.
So what would be the recommendation now? You would have the two that Richie currently does, plus...
Yes. The one by the Catacumba that was added, and then another Secchi disc only point on the other side of, in the second base, somewhere in the second basin. The middle basin, I should say. And that would be for a year, so if we see there's no difference between the two,
So now currently, we're actually taking a clarity reading there monthly during we have a quality committee that does monthly measurements of turbidity and pH, and each location that we do it in, we do a second disc reading at that point. And right where you have that red dot
This one down
is
here?
pretty much right where we're taking it on a monthly basis as it
And
is
that's a
right
good
now.
location.
It's not weekly, but we are doing that monthly, and we have data for this entire summer there.
And how did it read, do you know?
It was concurrent with the other two readings. Clarity, I mean, this summer the clarity was phenomenal. It was
So,
8
Carl,
feet, 7 feet all season long.
does it make sense to you if we have readings from the summer, at least, we're going to have at least 3 or 4 readings at the point in the second basin, if we can take a look at those to see if they correspond to the other? Because they also took readings on the south basin as well.
It's only once a month, though.
That's true?
And it might not be. From my understanding of discussions, there's no commitment to that once a month. I know there's good intentions and it'll probably be done, but there's no commitment to the once a month.
Well, there's a commitment, there's just not a commitment in the notice of intent.
The intent of the weekly is to establish whether you need algal control. And like everyone has explained, you first see that in the North Basin.
Yes.
So just because you take the middle basin once a month, I don't think that's really going to add to that.
I agree.
So, I guess my question to LSIC and to anyone else who's lived on the lake, have we ever seen an algal event occur and begin in the south or middle basin?
Not to my knowledge.
No, we've never even, we've never had algae here. I don't know, I'm not sure we've ever even treated for.
Then why are we taking second-disc readings there? Why wouldn't we concentrate on the north basin where everything's going to
Because
occur?
that's what I was saying, it comes in the north and goes right through the second down to the end.
If we're collecting data that's going to do nothing for us, and historically over the last 20 years, what's the point of keep taking that data?
I agree. I agree. I think we get any value of data in that third.
Okay, so can we propose possibly eliminating the South Basin second-disc readings? Would other members be in favor of that? Because, I mean, the whole point is, and you say this all the time, Carl, if we're collecting it, why are we collecting it?
Right.
To me, it sounds like there's no value at all. Let's get rid of let's keep the 2 points up there, so now we're going to have 2 points in the North Basin where most of the action is going to occur, and then we eliminate the second-disc reading in the South Basin.
Who recommended those points to begin with? May I ask that question? Where did these come from?
Solitude. Recommended the two, the north and the south. With the revised order of conditions, we now added those 4. That was not Dominic, that was Dominic, Jerry Smith
Yeah.
was the North Basin, the South Basin.
So, I mean, if they feel as though it's necessary to do the South Basin,
Well, I guess what I'm asking Wendy as your representative here tonight, is it something you want to review I mean, I think everybody here agrees that the North Basin is where most of these are occurring. If we keep one other point, whether it's in the Middle Basin or the South Basin, if it's valuable based on the historic data, maybe we can make that determination at some point, and we can acknowledge that, okay, we're going to, keep these 2 points at a minimum.
I would concur with keeping the 2 points. I mean, there's nothing to suggest that we've missed an algal bloom because we haven't sampled in the right place.
So where are we?
So we're going to do 2 points on weekly, and then the South and Middle Basin, because we haven't had issues there, will possibly be eliminated based on confirmation of LSIC's representative between now and...
And I know it's like tentative, but they will pick it up in the monthly sampling anyway.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're hitting those red spots monthly, right? Is that what those are?
And we have enough residents on that lake, if we started to see clarity or some sort of change in the South or Middle Basin, I'm sure we'd say, hey, you know what? Something fishy is going on here, and maybe we need to do something.
Yeah, because after all those years, if something starts happening in that area, there's a problem somewhere.
Yeah, I think
Does that seem okay?
works for me. Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
So Ken just asked the next question, which I'm probably somebody could help me with, is what is the point of the red dots? The red triangles? What triggers those measurements?
Is that
and
the
why?
supplemental second disc?
Yeah.
Well, some of them are like looking at coves, so sometimes you might have a bloom in the wind, the way the wind's blowing will concentrate the algae in a cove.
Or what triggers it?
Oh, the less than 5 feet Secchi disc reading on those other points.
Okay, so
Then
that's...
you increase your number of sampling sites by 3 more locations.
Okay.
So,
Just for, I didn't put this program together, this was either
Mhm.
recommended by Dr. Wagner or Solitude, but that's my understanding.
So essentially, if the readings go below 5 feet, you add those 3 locations
Correct.
automatically.
so my next question is, say we have an event in the North Basin, and we're saying, hey, our clarity is going, it's less than 5 feet. Would it make sense to, instead of the area where we have in the South Basin with the algal reading and the proposed Secchi disc reading on the normal, make that a red triangle and a yellow X? That way we have, instead of 3 supplemental Secchi disc locations, we have 4. Because then we go, hey, something's happening, now we want to make sure, we want to start looking at additional clarity throughout the lake.
So you're saying that green triangle in the north would become a red green diamond would become a red triangle?
No, I'm saying
Yeah, 'cause I don't follow you.
these 2 stay as proposed.
Okay.
And then if there's an event here that we pick up based on our clarity readings in the North Basin,
Yeah.
then this triggers this point, this point, this point, this point. They all stay as red triangles because then we're picking up more clarity readings when we think we're at a more critical time.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
So did anything change?
Because it would have...
Yeah. So we're relying on the clarity readings in the North Basin because that's where the events occur.
Right.
We're relying on those. And then if we get a clarity reading that triggers algal readings, algal sampling as proposed, then that also triggers additional Secchi disc readings at the red triangle locations,
Okay.
which there'll be 4 instead of 3.
Good, okay. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's clear, 'cause it's not clear to me otherwise, yeah.
No pun intended.
So, because the goal of this is to make decisions about algal treatment, correct?
Correct.
So if the goal of this is to make decisions about algal treatment, what you just proposed makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And with algo, it's got to be done quickly.
Correct.
Yeah. As soon as, and it would be one of these would be hit 5 feet first, and then
Right.
triggers this other. So then the only remaining thing is where's the right places, when you get triggered, to check for algae.
Well,
To do the chemical analysis, not just Secchi discs.
so the yellow X's are where you're going to do the additional sampling. So there's 4 yellow X's, 2 in the North Basin and 2 in the South Basin. I don't know if it makes sense to...
When we went through this, and our proposal was that this makes as little sense as anything else down here, because we've never seen algae down here.
The one immediately by your pointer, Carl, your pen, that one's a very shallow portion of that basin.
Right, but we've never seen algae get into that, to that.
Agreed.
So we could do it, but
Would it make sense to move?
this one, this cove has always foretold an algae issue. So I would think we'd want to look in that cove. And maybe instead of that, to look in the cove.
I mean, I'm kind of at your recommendation. I haven't been looking at these.
One thing that may make sense is if we're going to modify where those points are, maybe those points should be determined by the person who's going to evaluate the points. So we say we're going to evaluate up to 4 points, and those points will be determined by the professional.
I like that idea, because I don't want to move a point that someone had a reason to put it there.
Right.
I like that idea
So
too.
it's based on the conditions that they see in the lake at the time.
Yes.
So that means we still have as much sampling required by the trigger, but then the biologist has the discretion to say, no, this is where we need to see it because we're seeing some weird things here. It clearly looks horrible. And all three coves in the northern portion of the North Basin, I want to test 3 there and 1 versus anything in the south would just be a waste of time and money for the sampling.
Well, plus what direction has the wind been blowing lately?
Right.
Right.
So if I can recap.
Sounds good.
We're going to have 2 fixed Secchi disc locations in
Yes.
the North Basin. Then we're going to add 4 when the clarity, if those 2 go below 5 feet. And then those locations would be at the discretion of the biologist that's out there. And then the algae samples, we're going to have, how many do we have up there? 1, 2, 4. And we'll have 4 algae samples at the discretion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would tend to take that algal samples and the additional clarity samples at the same locations?
Yes.
Or you would?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So when you say add 4, it's a total of 4, not 6.
Correct. It's the 4 that shown, but
She said 2 and add 4. I just
no,
want to
she meant,
clarify the total.
we have the 2 set Secchi disc locations. She's going to add 4 additional Secchi disc locations. So there'll be 6 total during this triggered period of additional sampling. But there will only be 4 algal sampling points.
So there's more than it's on the map right now. It's just
Correct.
at the discretion of the...
Correct.
So before we had 3, and then we would do 3 additional. Now we have 2, and we have 3. So you just move one of the samples that you're only going to take it when the clarity goes lower.
And you're paying for those.
So those are all Secchi disc. Now the algae sample, that hasn't changed. There's 4 that were proposed in the map by Solitude. There'll still be 4, but it'll be at the discretion where those locations are. Because they may want to capture them all in the North Cove.
Right.
North part of the North Cove.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an area, Joanna, where it's really, where they see it starting to develop, instead of gluing you to those sample sites, you give Solitude the flexibility to be able to concentrate in the areas that are
Now, I will
having
say,
the issue.
there may be a reason why there's some in the north in those deeper areas, because if it's due to an internal loading issue, you might see them first in those deeper places, but it just gets blown to the north. So that might be why those locations. But again, we'll leave it up to the people that have looked at this lake for many, many years to make that
Just make sure that they would send the Office of Communication saying, hey, we're finding this, so we have to move the sample point
Yeah.
here.
They can easily zip off
That
the
way,
map.
we know,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on.
Perfect. Good, thank you.
That's something that could take them 10 minutes to do, so.
Okay.
On the drawdown, I think everything is in there in terms of the data gathering, during the drawdown and refill process, the outflow rates and the lake level. And the one thing that I didn't see specifically, I see it in reports, but I'd like to have it in the document, is what the condition of the gates are when those measurements are made. And they don't change much, but the top, how open the 2 gates are at the time of the measurements. The reason is that database could give us some good information to be able to track if it's blocked. Because we know with the lake at this level and the gates in this condition, wide open, say, you'll have an outflow of a certain amount, and that's a fixed number. But if you don't have that outflow, because there's always a question of other gates partially blocked, and they can get just kind of partially blocked, and then you can't achieve your drawdown level.
Right.
But you don't know that they're fully blocked, and it's a big deal to go figure out for sure, close the gates, bring divers in, and go see if they're blocked. So I think if we had, in that same time frame, the outflow, the lake level, and the gate condition, we could then use that to determine the status of the cleanliness of the
Yeah, I'd have to refer to the gatekeeper,
Yeah.
because I don't know how sensitive that is.
Well, they keep records, I see it in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reports, they keep records of how open the gates are when they open and close them. I'm just trying to get all of that
Oh,
data into
they
the same
do
point.
that,
They
okay.
do that as part of their
I know we talked about the
process.
returns and all of that.
Yeah, if you look at their the town plan of what they do. And if you look at even what we get from the LSIC,
Yeah.
they'll occasionally note, half open, X number of turns,
So-
however they do it.
Does the dam keeper, he keeps a record of
Yeah, when he
the
makes
gate's
an
open
adjustment.
and the condition of the gate?
Yeah, and if we get a
So what I would
spike-
suggest, just because the LSIC doesn't have control over what the town does, so if the town doesn't collect those data, we can't hold LSIC to that. So you could say that LSIC will get whatever records that the town has during the drawdown period and include that.
That seems
Because they have no
reasonable.
control
Yeah.
over what the town
Yeah, that
collects.
seems, and just incorporate, are you saying you want to incorporate that?
I want to incorporate that requirement somewhere here, and it is a town data, and the dam keepers are supposed to keep it, so it should
Right,
be
but if they
available.
don't, you can't, when you put
Well,
something in
then we go to the
the-
town, then we
Yeah.
go to the town,
Yeah, I know, but if you put something in this order of conditions, you're binding...
the town.
No, because the applicant is LSIC, the town is the owner. They did not co-sign this application. So,
But the-
that's why you can't bind the town to do something. If they were a co-signer, I would agree with you.
Well, we can still go to the town, but
Yeah.
even if they bring maybe an annual report that the preceding year's drawdown records, dam keeper drawdown records will be incorporated in an appendix, then we have them, we can review them and say, hey, they missed all the gate readings in January.
Then you could go to the
Then we
town.
can,
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's fine, what you said is fine.
So
LSIT will take what data is available and include it in the report. If it's not available, then we have a
Yeah, I know
definition.
we're splitting hairs here, but you gotta be careful.
No, that's fine,
Okay.
I understand. I don't know, the point Matt keeps bringing up, I think could become important at some point in the future relative to the safety question of the drawdown. And if there's any links to any safety issues, and walls have been mentioned, and that may be a hook that would help the lake have in the order condition. If we at least mentioned, that there is safety concerns that are also linked to what's going on here, so that we're not in this situation we were last year, where the DEP says, look, it's strictly for vegetation control, it isn't going to help vegetation, so we want you to do so-and-so. Walls, it seems to me that you might be able to argue that, protecting walls is important, right?
Protecting against property damage.
Yeah, and there's a fine line there. Should conservation be making decisions? But we do every day. So we let people take down a tree so it doesn't fall in their garage,
Point of clarification for me. In their application, they don't propose drawing down beyond January 1st. So you're saying if we come to a condition due to safety where we never got a good drawdown on Lakes High, and we had to exceed that criteria, that we're going to put a condition in or create a special condition to address that?
No. Matt, you could verbalize this better than I can, I think.
Essentially what happened, and I know we've gone over this, what happened last year was we were all put in a position where we were forced to close that dam, and it couldn't get drawn down because we had 11 inches of rain in November, and it seemed to have started raining in November and didn't want to stop until like June. So because of that, the state said, no, December 31st, everybody's done. They shut every lake drawdown that was extended down in the state that had an order of conditions that only specified weed control. Okay?
Okay.
So if this particular order, if we had something to hang our hat on with a safety provision, okay, that was in the documentation. If we have another episode where we're going to have 6 months of rain again, and it's not able to draw down right away, we have that safety provision that allows us to keep going past December 31st. Because the way the state views it, according to my conversations with Judy, after January or after December 31st, continuing to try to draw it down is going to provide no value to weed control. It's not going to be long enough of a period. So if we can
And they have
have...
a safety issue on the other end.
That's what I'm saying. If there's a safety issue...
No, the DEP has a safety issue because with winter, ice freezes in levels, and you could risk people going in because the top's frozen, but there was a sunny day, so underneath is not. Because the weather flexes so much that the ice now freezes in layers, and it becomes a people snowmobiling recreational safety issue.
Yeah, that was the other reason.
That's what she said to us.
That's exactly what she said to us at that December meeting she attended, because we agreed with the thought process of that continued drawdown. But she said that due to that ice freezing in those different layers, it causes a safety issue for people going in and accidents happening.
Could it be worded as, safety prior to ice? So if you, as soon as you get an ice over, shut it down. But last year, they made us shut it down on December 31st. There wasn't a lick of ice on
And
it
that was my
for weeks further. So if we could put
dialogue
a
with you.
Yeah.
Was that was
notation
still...
there where, because it is a safety.
See, now that's actually a good point. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
And that's an excellent way of putting it.
Ice hasn't formed.
Because
Well,
that's
that's
like I said, as soon
exactly
as it
what-
freezes, we'll shut it. But right now, I'm looking at a full pond.
Yeah.
There's not one piece of ice on you. It's not frozen as of yet.
We would have
And
done
she
an
said-
extra 3 weeks.
Right, she was mandated to that December 31st. Matt saw the email. Matt was on that email chain.
So, is this something that...
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Rich.
It might just move the conversation along if we asked Matt to get a written determination from DEP on if we can and how we should word allowing drawdown for a safety issue. I think that might answer our questions.
Yeah.
And if we want to include that as a requirement, maybe we can do
Never
it.
read nor
I
seen
think you're gonna
anything that
offend
allows
DEP.
drawdown purely for a safety issue of
Because
a
you're
wall.
asking her how to come around
So,
her ruling. You're
So I
looking
think
for a
that
way-
may move us along if Matt can get that.
Not if it's a legitimate issue, though,
Right.
Julian. So, I mean, I think there are circumstances where it could be legitimate, and, I mean, the worst she could say is, get lost.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, right. And I think the ice over is a good
Very
key.
clearly. She called the town manager, she clearly, Matt, if you remember,
Yeah, but like he said, our notice of intent was strictly for weed
Right.
control. So if we...
And she did keep telling me, when you do the new NOI, that's the time you need to address those issues. She said, until then, you're glued to the weed control. That was what she told me. So the dynamics are changing as far as the documentation, so that might be different.
Do we know if there were any lakes in Massachusetts that had safety in their order of conditions that didn't have to stop their drawdown?
Yeah, I think Indian Lake and Worcester.
Well, we should look at what they did.
So, Matt, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
You talked to Matt, and I think this ice over is a key.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I think going to your point, Carl, I think that also is worth examining, so keep it moving. Keep it moving.
okay. So most of my other concerns from the original NOI have been addressed very well in the update. I understand this subtlety of LSIC, can't take any responsibility or whatever for the watershed, and I get that. But it would be reassuring to have a commitment, even if it's just a verbal commitment tonight, but it would be good to have some stronger intent in the notice of intent, that they'd work with the town to try to get some programs going and, support the town in getting grants and...
Well, I do have it in here. I say LSIC remains committed to working with the towns of Lunenburg and Shirley to improve the water quality entering Lake Shirley. The LSIC posts watershed and other useful education documents on their website to inform residents on their impact to the resource. They will continue to work with the towns to acquire grants and work collaborative watershed assessments and management. Keep in mind that all grants require a financial contribution, like a match.
Yeah, I understand
and I think
that.
that's where I don't want to speak for the town, but there becomes that disconnect.
I understand that very well, because I drove the 319 grant that the LSIC got in 2005 or 6.
So it isn't in
But
the,
it's in here, but I guess it sounds good, but I guess I'm looking for something, give me a better feeling that it's really going to happen. As far as I know, there's been no discussions with the town since 2008 about any of this.
I don't know how we can ask them to give us more assurances that it's really going to happen, because the town has always been very reluctant to commit to spending any money.
That's why it takes.
And for us to take and turn to LSIC and say, oh, we want you to commit, to make sure this is really going to happen, when there's another actor involved, I don't think is. I think I'm very happy with the language that's incorporated. Speaking for myself, in the revision.
I'll just express that I hope that there will actually be some action and some reach out to the town and some actual efforts
And I
made.
understand that position. And it could
'Cause I
be
think the
something
town
maybe
is-
the residents of the town or the residents of the lake could approach the Board of Selectmen when they see a grant, and they can help pressure.
You should take that on, Colin.
I'm not getting the feeling that the LSIC feels.
What's next
Permission to go do
on your
that,
list,
so-
Carl?
So the thing is, I know that they've done a grant program already. And they
I know, I did it. I did it,
Yeah,
and
right.
nothing's happened since 2008.
Well, I guess, in rebutting that, I don't see the town coming to us asking what they...
No, they're not
from
gonna.
us either.
Yeah, they're not gonna, because they don't want to spend the money. That's why it takes work.
Excuse me just a second, because we're on audio and video. Steve, can you just say your name and address for the record?
Yep, Steve Bean, 27 Fire Road 15.
Beautiful, thank you.
I don't think that's
Okay.
something that we can solve here today.
No. I was just going to get a sense for the intent, and I think I got one. The three things that I think are missing. One is, there's no mention that I found, and maybe you could point it out to me, about public education.
Well, I just read the LSIC post-watershed and other useful education documents on their website. I don't know, what do you have in mind that they should be doing?
Well, even, for example, in the lake management plan, the most recent update, there was a very specific suggestion made that at the annual meeting, that the attendees be sort of informed about that some weeds, are necessary for the health of the lake and so forth. So in the lake management plan, there was some, there was at least one or two very constructive things that could be done from education that go beyond putting something on the website and hoping somebody goes and looks at it.
So which annual meeting are you referring to?
The LSIC meeting, yeah.
That Dr. Jim Wagner speaks at, that Dominic speaks at, that Wendy speaks at.
Yes.
And discuss all those weed topics.
It's very interesting.
So I'm saying is in the lake management plan, there were specific actions that could be taken.
Fish and Wildlife
Mr. Chair,
has some.
one person talk at a time, please.
We're having a discussion, Carl. I don't think it's getting out of hand.
Well, it sounds
I'd just
like to
like
me
to
like
see
they have
actionable
invited
things.
speakers that come and do that.
Mhm.
I don't know what more you're really looking for.
So,
I guess I'm looking for something that'll reach out to more than I don't know how many people attend the annual meetings nowadays, but something that'll reach out to the entire lake.
So are you looking for a specific education requirement within the...
Something more, just something more than the blanket statement that we put stuff on the website. I don't know if that's a very strong position in terms of outreach and education.
One of the things in the annual reporting that we suggest is to document any outreach and education of landowners in the watershed with regard to protection, preservation, and limit pollution with the lake watershed. So when they do the annual report, if they do any outreach, document what they did. I don't know if I agree with anything beyond or any mandated outreach. Personally, Bob?
I agree with that also, and I would just point out that, I'm very interested to hear, Carl's points and stuff, and all his concerns, because he's very detail-oriented, but we do act as a commission, not as individuals, and, if we were going to take and ask them to change the NOI, and, I think we would, to make more of a commitment to education or something like that, it should come from the entire commission and not from an individual member.
So clearly, I'm not giving him any direction, Bob. I'm putting this on the table as areas that I think maybe could be improved for discussion.
So,
I don't have the ability to require anything. Thank you for making that clear. Okay, the other thing that even in GIR that to me seems to be missing is new invasives. I see, get rid of the invasives we have, but is there language in there of action to avoid new invasives?
The monitoring program, it talks about early identification and a program to try to eradicate them before they come.
What page is that one?
Colonization.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, I read that too, but it still talks about early identification. It's already in the lake. I'm talking about, and it's sort of a link to education, of how do we get people to understand that bring boats on the lake, the importance, to keep them out of the lake. And we have a very clear and painful example. Back in '96, if you look at the '96 survey, in '96, Eurasian milfoil was identified in the lake for the very first time, was seen for the very first time in '96. And within 10 years, it took over the lake. It was found where you would, at least the papers say you would find it, was right outside the boat ramp. So,
well, it's my understanding that that's a private property. So if someone wanted to approach them to put signage, that would be something privately done that necessarily wouldn't be a requirement of LSIC to do. Because they can go to the DCR, which has signs that are free.
Well, there is signage.
yeah, I think there is a sign. I think there is a sign.
What are you proposing, Carl?
I'm just throwing out that when I look at the EIR, the very first thing they say about in controlling invasives is the first step is to avoid them getting into your lake. And I'm just not seeing much I'm seeing let's catch them early, but I'm not seeing whether it be education, working with the boat ramp, other lakes in the state, work with people productively to put in boat washes, put in inspections.
You live on the lake, so there are a number of landowners, not just at the private campground, but there's another number of landowners that have boat ramps, and friends and folks can put their boats in there as well.
Absolutely, and they need to be educated. And we have a lot of new residents who may or may not know, the issues of bringing in.
But I don't see as this is Lake Shirley's trying to manage the weeds, and I think prevention is a very powerful tool, but it also costs money. So are we asking them to put something?
It doesn't necessarily cost money to educate people.
Well, their annual meetings are open. So anyone that wants to, the problem is you can only educate those that want to be educated. I hate to say it, but it's true. And the only other thing to prevent invasives coming in is to put a monitor at the boat launch, and they have no control over that because it's private property.
And they have no control over all the other people who have boat launches on their own private property.
Exactly.
Right.
There's dozens of places on that lake where you can put a boat in and out.
There was an applicant tonight.
So I don't disagree that education is not an important endeavor, but there's limits to what they have control over and who is actually going to, like we have, in my lake that I live on, we have invited speakers. You know what the attendance of it is less than the people in this room. So, I mean, and we're paying speakers to come, and you're getting the same people at the meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Things at annual meetings are not necessarily effective.
I have no other way to advise the LSIC how to do more outreach.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am?
Tammy Lobo, 579 Reservoir Road. I would just like to go on record as saying that the LSIC annual meeting was attended by, there were over 100 people at the meeting. And it was well attended by new people on the lake. And the speakers that came, as a person who's been to the 2 annual meetings, the speakers that came were outstanding. I learned a tremendous amount. So I disagree with the idea that the LSIC is not doing are trying very hard to educate people and give people opportunities. Those things, there's links, there's announcements on the Facebook page, on the website constantly. So I just want it to be on record that
Well,
I don't agree with the assessment that they're not doing a good job educating.
Thank you.
I never said you weren't doing a good job.
Carl, one of the things I think would be valuable is, like, for example, I didn't know the number of folks you had attend the annual meeting. Also, maybe a lot of us are active here in town and attend town meetings, maybe announcements at town meetings and documenting, hey, we made an announcement at special town meeting and at the annual town meeting of, where people can find information on the lakes, just to get the word out. We ourselves, as the Conservation Commission, can also make announcements in that regard as well. Joanna?
What I'll say is, people per social media or the social media out there, I think our social media is very strong as well. Just, Wendy, what was that picture I sent you? Remember, Dominic? I sent it to you,
Yes.
Dominic. It was a floating, nobody had ever seen it before. And it was this huge flowing, and someone referred to it as poop. And it was this huge barrage of just, it looked like poop, over in the third lake by Piro's Beach. And what it was, Dominic, what did he say it was? It's something from the bottom with all the high rain. It's like the bottom shifted and it just came up from the bottom. And so, we forwarded that out to, first someone put pictures on Facebook. So I took the pictures and forwarded them right away to the people we pay that know what it is. And they both responded, Wendy and Dominic both responded, and then I copy and paste and put their response right out on Facebook, per Wendy, per Dominic and Solitude, this is what it is. So I do think our Facebook page, Jessica's a part of it right there, we do, with social media, are instant at being able to...
Do you also regularly send out emails to your membership of, educational emails, things like that they can pass on? Any of those efforts also?
I do yearly newsletter that's like 12, 14 pages long. We have an annual meeting.
All these things should be documented, because I think they would address some of Carl's concerns that if he feels the word isn't getting out. Well, I don't know if you just send your membership or all residents. That's my own ignorance.
It goes to everybody because it's the call of the annual meeting, so...
Yes, sir.
And Steve, go ahead.
Joel Swinson, 17 River Street. This is just bizarre to me. I mean, the biggest influx of people coming into the lake is a completely uncontrolled source of people to educate. We get people from Worcester, Billerica, Boston, Cambridge. It's impossible to quantitate that we're educating all these people. If Shady Point has signs about weeds, which they do, and they tell people that they do inspections on the boat ramps, I think this is all a moot point. If Committee Member Luck says that we are doing a good job, he never suggested we weren't doing a good job, I think we should move on to the next point, which I would hope would be something that's not...
So you want to move the question?
Yeah, I think we should stop talking about it as well as most of these points on Carl's list.
Well, one thing that I endeavor to do is every commissioner's got their own point of view, and I like to make sure, just like you get to be heard, that every commissioner gets to be heard as well.
Yeah.
Well, I do have one more comment, I'm sorry, Steve Bean, 27 Fire 15. In conjunction with that, going back to the town, there is a public boat launch for Lake Shirley, and there is zero signage there for weeds.
That's a good point,
People
actually.
put kayaks that have paddles on them that can easily collect weeds from rivers or anywhere else they're at, car topper canoes that have trolling motors with props that can carry weeds as well.
So it doesn't just come from trailers, it can easily come with a car topper, and I've never seen a sign in that public boat launch.
That's a good point.
Well, it's
I'll
not,
check
it's an excellent point. The signs are readily available, and the LSIC could put one up as well.
Well, I wouldn't put it on town property.
It's the
I'd
town
call
property.
Jack Rock,
So
I
I'm
would
sure
call-
the town would say,
I would call Jack Rock.
would
Yeah.
I bet Jack would say, throw it right up.
But he's right, it is
She's on
a
it.
public access.
All right, it's done. Let's consider that done.
Sometimes it shouldn't be do as they say, not as they do.
No,
We should follow our own advice.
Just the last one, because it was
Steve,
talked about a lot
Great, perfect.
in the Wagner report, was turbidity.
Yes.
And I don't know, what you can do about it, but there was some recommendations of doing some additional Secchi disc measurements or something in the report, and I was wondering what your
So I think
feeling was on any of
the
those.
pairing of the when the Secchi disc goes below 5 feet, pairing the algal grab sample and the Secchi disc, if there's hardly any algae, you know that Secchi disc transparency is low because of something non-algal. So that's how you can tease that out.
But there also was some suggestion, I believe in that report, to perhaps do Secchi disc measurements weekends versus during the week, so that you could try to get some sense of the turbidity due to boat traffic.
Yeah, but again, going back to, I think your point, or someone made it, it's like, well, what are you going to do with those data, right? So you collect them. The only thing I know to reduce turbidity is to restrict boat access and boat speeds and the type of watercraft that is allowed on the lake. And again, that would be something that the LSIC does not have control over.
Yeah, they don't have any control over taking the actions, but without the data, nobody believes that there's an action required. You know what I'm saying? If the data was there, you could take the data perhaps to the town and say, look at this data, because it's an impaired lake highly due to the turbidity.
That's a
And you
great
could- you
idea.
could
Does
go
it
to the
belong
town.
in the order of conditions? Does it belong in their LSIC order of notice of intent?
So I guess to this point, I think we've kind of covered that with the plan that's been developed for the additional treatment to the clarity.
No, the recommendation in the Wagner
He's
report
asking
was...
for to do something more specific when you see a lot of boat traffic, to go out there specifically and do a second
Oh.
Yeah,
transparency.
they're recommending you take measurements during the week, take some measurements, and not lots, but to get a sense. And I'm not saying it goes in the order of conditions, I'm just trying to have the discussion, to plant the seeds
Sure.
for things that the LSIC might want to consider doing that would actually, contribute in the long term to the lake. None of these things are going to help tomorrow.
Okay, so I have a question for the people who are doing the sampling. Do you tend to collect during the week?
We don't do on weekends.
You don't do on weekends?
It's difficult, so when we do our measurements or our sampling, when there's a lot of boat traffic, your boat is going up and down, and we have, apparatuses that are in the water they have depth finders specifically in that, and we're doing foot increments. So if my boat is going up and down 2.5 or 3 feet, I'm not getting accurate readings with higher end traffic. We try to do it, if it's on the weekends, we're doing it early in the morning, or we're doing it in the evening. We did it last Friday, we did it at 5:30.
Yeah, and these are Secchi discs, not...
Well, we do second disc
Yeah,
readings.
but only Secchi discs, nothing else.
So, Carl, I guess my comment on this is, if it's a lot of turbidity stirred up by boat traffic, that's going to take a while to settle out. So if you did a Secchi disc reading maybe in the afternoon, after the boat traffic has subsided, or the evening, that should still pick it up, and maybe we have a few readings during the summer where we
Do a Saturday night or something.
do a Saturday night just for our own...
7 o'clock.
Our meter measures turbidity. So it's not just clarity, it's actually measuring turbidity. So it's not just, my eyes and your eyes could be totally different. I might see 6 feet, you might see 7 feet. This is much more specific. Am I not correct?
Yeah, to your point, Joanna, if the sampler notes like the condition of boat traffic, everyday boat traffic, moderate, low, you can't count the boats because they'll be there all day counting boats. But if you put some notation next to the Secchi disc reading, you might be
And
able
I
to tease
know
those data out.
Richie does Sunday mornings, because he'll swing by while we're having coffee, and he'll swing by, and he does it early, like between 9 and 11 on Sundays, because we'll be on our patio, and he'll come in and say, oh my God, it's still 8 feet. So he does.
I'm just thinking from getting the data, Carl. One, is it meaningful? And I think if we realize that, hey, a lot of these problems are caused by boat traffic, we could establish that, but...
So,
And again, I'm not suggesting they put it in the order of conditions.
What they're looking to do is treat for algae and treat for weeds. The turbidity is an issue all in itself.
Sure.
And it's nice to bring that up and bring it to the attention, so perhaps if someone wanted to take that on, someone could.
Yeah.
It would
That's all
be an
I just want to stimulate some
sidebar.
So even if we realized that it was turbidity caused by boat traffic, and we had triggered all these different algal sampling tests and additional secudisferes, and we did all this, if we have the conditions next year and clarity goes down, we're still going to have to test for algae because you can't tell at the time. You can't tell at the time. So I think your point is right, but if we start getting these clarity readings, we're going to have to test for algae anyway, because that's the important one.
Yeah, it doesn't affect anything we talked about necessarily. And I'm not suggesting we put it in the order of conditions, because I wouldn't know how to put it in the order of conditions. I just think that, this is the time for us to have these discussions and to plant these seeds of what might be things we should
I think that
consider
discussion
going
would be
forward.
a good discussion to have at their annual meeting.
I agree with that.
And so maybe you get a volunteer to raise their hand and go, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting to me, I'll go do that. Or I'll buy the $20 Secchi disc and take it on myself. That's where I think that, not necessarily the Conservation Commission here, because that's not what the intent of the NOI is. But certainly it's a valid discussion, interesting study.
It wasn't my idea, it was Ken Wagner's.
Yeah, but you bring it up more at the annual meeting.
Do you have any? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you have any?
That was it. No, that was it.
Okay. Good. So, did you have those prints, Matt?
Yeah.
No, good.
So tiny print.
All right.
I got magnifying glasses, just if you want.
Electronic?
Yeah, I can email it right now.
Yeah.
Already did.
Did it?
Is that-
So it's in my
I believe
email?
I did.
I got it already?
No.
Right
If
there.
not, I'll send it right now.
All right.
Some of us have it.
Yeah, you might
I
want to
just
send
didn't
that.
know when he did.
I'll forward
Because
it.
I know her and Natalie have been going back and forth.
Make sure you get the attachment.
Oxygen level, taking...
I think you did.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
Got it.
got it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So, we went through, and a lot of these requirements are similar to what we had before, but based on Wendy's input, we've modified the order conditions, take out some of the stuff that, based on our discussions, we knew you guys found onerous. And try and capture the intent of that Wendy had within the NOI. So if we go down through these quickly, well, first, should I just start reading through these, and then if we have a point that we want to discuss, you guys can stop me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all activities shall follow the guidelines and procedures set forth in the most recent Eutrophication and Aquatic Plant Management in Massachusetts Final Generic Environmental Impact Report, GEIR, unless revised by the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. Prior to the first weed control treatment in 2020, LSIC and Asian will provide a report addressing the concerns of the loss of native species as shown by the decrease in the 12-year trend line produced by the annual vegetative survey. The report will contain research comparisons and conclusions. If deemed a concern, there will be a plan included as to how to best address this condition in Lake Shirley. So that kind of gets to having your representative take a look at this data that we've collected and provide us her opinions on if anything needs to be done, and if something needs to be done, what action she would recommend.
Matt, can you send me that again? Because I can't open Todd's.
What are you looking?
I'm looking for that document.
Yeah,
Any comment on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I mean...
Well, you don't have to answer, so let's go through it tonight. And if you have additional concerns, because I think we're probably going to continue the 16th, the way it's going. We're probably going to continue the 16th. That's my feeling. You can give us your concerns on this, rather than...
We can't do a drawdown.
So you do it on the 16th. I know it's typically started on the 15th, but it may not be approved by then.
That's right. Well, you can
So
start
it'd be the
3 foot,
17th.
right? Yeah, you can go down to 3 feet.
Yeah.
So that's first one. Now, let's addressing drawdown. I can make this a little bigger. So, point 1, target drawdowns are to be up to 6 feet, and the chief depth will naturally vary based on variations in precipitation during the drawdown period. 2, target drawdown depth will be determined and approved at the annual report for the following year. The data collection on lake levels and stream flows are to be gathered no less than weekly between October 1st and April 15th and submitted with the annual report.
So the only question I have on this is, remember we talked about having the annual report October 15th through October 15th, and then we're not presenting that until after that start of the 15th. So how are you going to start the drawdown?
That's a good point.
That's an excellent point.
Well, I assume that was the prior year, that we would have discussed that.
Yeah, but we don't discuss the prior year's drawdown until the annual report. In the annual report, we get the data for the prior year's drawdown in the January following the current year's drawdown.
Is it okay if I say that?
I mean,
can't
do
you
you really
discuss
need to, is there a condition where you think that you wouldn't approve a drawdown?
No,
Yeah, right.
I don't.
Then
I don't.
we don't need that.
Yeah, I'm going to tentatively strike that, because I think in item 1, we say our target depth 6 feet, and yeah, and it's going to vary naturally based on precipitation, so let's do that for now. And again, you guys are going to have this, so we can get additional comments, or you have that, you can comment on it.
Yeah.
All right. 3, commence drawdown on or after October 15th. 4, achieve target drawdown depth by or before December 1st.
So historically, were you doing the 31st or the 1st, Joanne?
We just did it. We never stopped till we had Judy come to our December, the first Wednesday of December meeting, and she said, "What do you mean you don't stop your drawdown?" We said, "We don't. We draw down," and she said, "No, you're supposed to stop December 1st." So we never did. And that year, they gave us a waiver till December 31st.
Okay, that's where I'm getting the 31st.
So, we had discussed earlier,
And
Matt,
that's going to research.
reach out, so I'm gonna highlight that here, just so we know, hey, that one's a little hinky.
What's hinky about it?
We may get some wiggle room on that from DEP that we want to incorporate into the language
For the safety.
for the safety.
Oh, okay, thank you.
5, achieve full lake level by April 1st. 6, keep outflow during drawdown below discharge equivalent to 57.2 cubic feet per second. Once the target water level is achieved, match outflow to inflow to the greatest extent possible, maintaining a stable water level.
The only thing I would say is, as practicable on number 6, because you can't guarantee that you're going to get below, because if you have high rain events, you have to let that water pass.
So maintaining a stable water level as practicable.
Well, or attempt to achieve.
Yeah.
Well,
So the
don't-
equivalent of the 57, so say, you just
Yeah,
started
yeah,
your
no, I understand.
drawdown, and now you got a huge rain event, like what happened.
Yeah,
There's no way they can
last year
limit
we
it to
didn't.
57.2.
No, well, they can if they close a gate and let the water come back up.
Yeah, so
Right.
maybe you could control it by, if it's flowing over the dam, you have no control,
Correct.
right? So if the lake's flowing over the dam, this doesn't apply.
Right.
Correct.
And if we only keep it, and I've talked to this before, in Shirley and I Ron Wilson can explain it better, but their order of conditions specifically say, if we don't achieve the April 1st full, we have to lessen the amount going out.
But this requirement here is specifically the outflow during drawdown. So if
All right, okay, I was on the April 1st recharge.
You could add unless the water is flowing over the spillway.
Okay.
I would just point out, this language came exactly from the GEIR.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
exact language from the GEIR. But I agree with you that there's times when it's not practical, when you have a lot of rain.
Okay. 7, keep outflow during refill above a discharge equivalent to 7.15 cubic feet per second. 8, any residents' concerns with the well should be reported to LCC, who will take appropriate action. LSIC shall refer all residents to the LCC for issues concerning wells. This one, the tests shall take place between January 15th and March 1st as allowed by ice safety. The test should be performed at one of the deepest locations on the lake and graphed from the surface to the bottom, showing the dissolved oxygen level and temperature. So this was a requirement in the last order, and Wendy, at this point, I'd like you to specifically comment on the value of this testing.
So what the intent here is, often under ice conditions, if there's a lot of bacteria doing its job breaking down materials, it will suck the oxygen out of the lake.
Right.
And when you lower the volume of water for either drawdown, you have less volume to address that. I don't know if there's ever been any, it's getting at the temperature depth profiles that you do. If the suggestion is to do one during the drawdown when there's ice, and you walk out there and you drill a hole and you check out, and just to see how bad the oxygen levels are. What would you do if they are super low?
Well, I mean, it would document a condition if then there was a subsequent fish kill, you'd say, hey, look, we had...
It could be related to that, yeah. So I think even in my report, I think there was a condition that said weekly or something, and I just said once during the drawdown period.
Okay. So that's something to consider if it's valuable or not, but that's in right now. I mean, I think it could be valuable based on recent events. Bob?
I would just wordsmith it and say, a dissolved oxygen test shall take place between January 15th and March 1st. Right now it just says the tests. Okay? And it doesn't say what test are they referring to, and then by the end of the paragraph you figure out you're talking about dissolved oxygen. I would just suggest that you wordsmith it and say a dissolved oxygen test shall take place.
Yep.
And I would just say a dissolved oxygen profile. That's how, so you would do it.
Yeah, a dissolved oxygen profile, yeah.
So a singular, once.
Yes.
One spot, pick the deepest location, look
Okay.
down to the bottom, see what it looks like.
All right. So aquatic vegetation control. During the annual report review, all products for the next year will be submitted for review and approval. If a product not previously approved, if a product is not previously approved, a report will be submitted including the label, reasoning, justification for product recommendation, discussion of risk rewards for review and approval. Any limits in excess of labeling imposed by the LCC will be presented to LSIC at the time the product is approved for use and remain in effect until such time as altered by LCC, including but not limited to well testing, treatment area restrictions, chemicals, etc. Next,
Can we,
Yeah.
just so I understand this, all right, so when you say all products for the next year, you're talking about all herbicide/algicide products, correct?
No, just vegetation. This is the vegetation section.
Oh, okay, so just all herbicide products. What's your
yes,
definition of products?
this is just under herbicides, not algicides. There's a next section for algicides that we
All right.
Okay.
So you're referring just basically to chemical control?
Yes.
Got it.
2, the herbicide-algicide treatment contractor will perform, well, that's fine. Hold on a second, let me The herbicide algaecide treatment contractor will perform a pre-treatment plant survey utilizing the same methodology and points as in prior surveys to assess plant densities. Contractor will estimate treatment areas based on these data and prior year survey data, last 3 years, that note areas that typically exceed the 50% plant density threshold. This survey, along with an estimated treatment plan, will be submitted to the Commission 2 weeks prior to treatment. The treatment plan will include A, results of the plant survey with 3 prior year survey reports. B, map showing the plant treatment area based on a combination of the existing survey data and best professional judgment after review of prior year growth characteristics to justify treatment points, particularly in areas with less than 50% plant density at the time of the pre-treatment survey. This goes back to the point we discussed earlier. C, estimated herbicide algaecide application volume. D, proposed timing. F, targets species. G, measures to avoid native species, e.g. rotten pondweed and others of importance as noted by the biologist during the plant survey. And H, any additions to the treatment area will be approved by conservation agent as long as it is less than a 10% addition to the approved area. Bob?
Under C, wordsmithing again, I would say estimated herbicide application volume, not herbicide algaecide. This section doesn't deal with algaecide at all.
Agreed. And then also in the beginning of the point, it says the herbicide algaecide treatment contractor will just make that herbicide. All right. 3.
I noticed in your plan, if you go back up, because that, I'm sure how it's going to happen, that the herbicide contractor will do it, but in the lake management plan, I noticed you chose the words just professional.
Yeah, so the pre-treatment survey, the reason why I left it vague is what I envision and what I think LSIC envisions is the Solitude would do the pre-treatment survey, so they would propose the treatment plan. The end of the year survey would be done by somebody else.
Okay.
Whether that's me or somebody else.
Okay.
Could be Geosyntech, who did the surveys many years ago, and they're looking point by point, they're doing a more detailed analysis.
Right.
Because one of the things I mentioned is, Solitude's looking for, did my herbicide work? And so they may not purposely try to capture all the natives that are in there, and so that's why I wasn't overly concerned with the drop-off of all the natives, because I wonder if it had to do something with the sample
Good
sampling, but
Okay.
anyway, so that was...
Okay, that's why, because I liked it. Thank you for...
Okay. 3, pre-treatment report will also include testing results from the 2 major inlet sources for phosphorus, nitrates, and E. coli. Can you comment on if that's valuable or not? We had it in our last quarter, and I just thought it would be beneficial to get your perspective.
So, I would say that the contractor could do, I would say just total phosphorus and total nitrogen, not E. coli. There's no need to include it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the reason for that would be, what decision would it be informing down the road?
The nitrogen and the phosphorus, it's just another, they're out there, it costs them nothing to collect that sample when they're out there.
Okay.
It does cost them the lab, and that's why I'm saying reduce, don't give them the 3 forms of nitrogen, just do a total nitrogen and a total phosphorus. You're talking probably $50, $60 for that.
Okay.
And it just gives you some idea what's going on in terms of
Thank you.
Okay, item 4. Any product applied will be labeled for use in Massachusetts to control the target aquatic weeds applied by Massachusetts licensed applicator using a delivery system that can be properly metered to ensure correct application. All precautions listed or recommended safety procedures will be noted in pre-treatment report and followed during use. Any limits in excess of labeling imposed by the LCC will be presented to LSIC at the time the product is approved for use and remain in effect until such time as altered by LCC. 5, the pre-treatment report shall be reviewed with LCC for approval prior to treatment. The applicator's name, a copy of their current Massachusetts pesticide license, and a certificate of insurance shall be furnished to the LCC prior to treatment. The pre-treatment report shall be submitted at least 7 days prior to a scheduled meeting date.
I think the NOI has different dates. I think it gives us more time than this.
This is,
Yep.
we talked about this at the meeting, and one of the things we brought up is we need at least 7 days
Yeah, but I think,
to review that.
I think in the NOI, it's more like 2 weeks.
You talk about the NOI application?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, and number 3, Wendy had suggested 2 weeks prior to our meeting.
Right.
The second to last line in the paragraph of number 3 of the aquatic vegetation control.
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying here, Rich, is they can request to be put on a meeting schedule, but what we've seen in years past is oftentimes we haven't been able to get the reports when they've asked for the meeting. So rather than say it has to be 14 days, we say we need the reports at least 7 days before the meeting. That's it.
So what does the NOI say? And so are they 2 different cuts at it? Because I thought the NOI said
So do you
2
want to
weeks.
just strike that line that says, will be submitted to the Conservation Commission 2 weeks prior to treatment? I mean, we probably don't need that line in there, number 3.
Yeah,
Where it
okay.
has to be submitted 7 days prior to a meeting.
Right.
We'll strike that line then.
You mean they'll strike that one? Because it's in the NOI, it's in their application.
I mean, I've already identified that you're making changes, some of this, that don't necessarily correspond with
Yeah,
this,
that's my
so
concern.
it's-
Because I like what's in the NOI, and I'd hate to make this conflict with it.
Yeah.
I think the only
Well, I
concern,
didn't think we were having dialogue right now, right? That's what we said, we were reading this.
Well, and then I said if people have points we want to discuss,
Right.
let's stop at a point to
Right,
that.
but like, so
So,
I'm not going with my NOI in this, because I thought I'd come back next month. Next meeting is what the directive was.
yeah, so I want to try to get through these points. So if you guys have a different view, please present it. Carl, it sounds like you want to go back to just maybe striking that and sticking with what's in the NOI.
I think that on that one point,
On that
the
one
NOI is pretty clear already.
let me just circle back to the intent of that. So when it was on the phone, his concern is we need to act fast, we can't wait, and if you guys don't meet,
Right.
now we're a month out, and the plants
Right.
can grow and become more of an issue for a loss of oxygen if they treat at a higher density.
Right. So one of the things that we're trying to prevent, well, you can't do it. We need 14 days, so you can't do anything. We don't want to hold a gun to everybody's head. We just want to get the information before we treat. That's the point of the shorter period in this one. Previously, it was 14 days. Shall be submitted 14 days prior to the scheduled meeting date, which coincided with the NOI. This makes it even a little softer in case something happened, and we still wanted to have the opportunity to treat. That's all.
Mr. Chairman,
We could just,
I like the way it's in this, in your draft of 7 days. I have no
Okay.
trouble with the fact that, the NOI says 14 and this says 7.
I mean, we could stick to the schedule in I or soften it more and just put the pretreatment report shall be submitted prior to a scheduled meeting date.
I mean, your conditions would trump anything that's written in the...
Right, that's why it's in the
Exactly.
conditions. That's why I like the 7 days, because if we get it at least a week in advance, it gives us a chance to review. But if something changes and they need, who knows? All right, I'm going to move on for now. 6, unless approved by Town of Shirley Conservation Commission, no chemical treatments will be allowed within 100 feet of the town boundary line. 7, treatment notice will be posted in local newspaper on LSIC website, Town of Lunenburg website, Lunenburg Access Channel, written notice to the town manager, and posted at any public access point to Lake Shirley, minimum of 1 week prior to treatment. The notice will contain a listing of all products being applied, all precautions to people in the treatment area, and re-entry information. LSIC will also have available on their website information about the treatment products being used, sample labels of the products, and any precautions for public safety. 8, post-treatment report for each product applied will contain time of application, product and quantity of product used, a map showing GPS or approximate track taken during application, water temperature, water level, weather conditions, any other conditions noted that may affect the effectiveness of the products used, the applicator's name, a copy of their current Massachusetts pesticide license, and a certificate of insurance. report will be submitted to LCC with annual report. Next, algae control. 1, during the annual report review, all products for the next year will be submitted for review and approval. If the product is not previously approved, a report will be submitted including label, reasoning for product recommendation, real-world experience, and real-world testimonials for review and approval. Any limits in excess of labeling imposed by the LCC will be presented to LSIC at the time the product is approved for use and remain in effect until such time as altered by LCC. 2, surveys will be performed beginning on May 1st, weather and lake conditions permitting, through the recreation season until September 30th for clarity, and will be performed in locations as shown on the attached map. Weekly reports will be sent to LCC for review. Locations and timing may be updated during the annual report review. 3, during periods of low clarity, SDT less than 5 feet, monitoring will be conducted at 3 locations and weekly algal samples will be collected at 4 stations. So this will need to be modified based on our discussion tonight. The grab samples will be sent to an analytic lab or, how do you pronounce that? Is that phycologist? And analyze for algal composition. The phycologist will determine whether algal treatment is needed. Algae and water clarity are to be reported to LCC no less than weekly and included in the annual report. 4, any product applied will be labeled for use in Massachusetts to control the target aquatic weeds applied by a Massachusetts licensed applicator and using a delivery system that can be properly metered to ensure correct application. All precautions listed or recommended safety procedures will be noted in the pre-treatment report and followed during use.
They are just wordsmith, Massachusetts to control algae applied by a, do you have?
Yeah, the target aquatic weeds.
To control algae. Algae, I can't spell. Okay. Any limits in excess of labeling imposed by LCC will be presented to LSIC at the time the product is approved for use and remain in effect until such time as altered by LCC. All right. 5, application of products can commence when cell counts or biomass levels are deemed to be above the level where immediate treatment is required. This level will be set during the annual report review and specific to the product recommended. 6, unless approved by the Town of Shirley Conservation Commission, no chemical treatment will be allowed within 100 feet of the town boundary line. 7, prior to any application, the LCC will be notified for approval. Report showing levels exceeding the approved threshold and treatment plan will be submitted. Due to the time-sensitive nature of algae treatment, the LCC agent is empowered to grant permission for algae control treatment. The applicator's name, a copy of their current Massachusetts pesticide license, certificate of insurance, and a listing of products to be applied shall be furnished to the LCC prior to treatment. All notification channels, local newspaper on LSIC website, Town of Lunenburg website, Lunenburg Access Channel, written notice of town manager, and posted at any public access point to Lake Shirley will be used as time permits to inform residents of the treatment and treatment precautions to be followed. 9. Post-treatment report will contain time of application, products, quantities of products used, GPS or approximate track taken during the application, water temperature, water level, water conditions, and any other conditions noted that may affect the effectiveness of the products used. The post-treatment report will be submitted to LCC with annual report. Next, annual reporting. This section really kind of mirrors some of the stuff that you already generated, Wendy, so you'll see it looks very familiar. The annual report will include data from October 15th to October 14th of the following year. The report will be submitted to the Lunenburg Conservation Commission by December 15th for the next business day. A public meeting will be scheduled with LCC in January. The annual report presentation and review by LSIC. The annual report will include, and we go through the list, introduction and summary of early summer conditions based on pre-treatment report, description of survey methodologies, macrophyte survey, and water quality monitoring, description of the previous annual drawdown progress and any issues in achieving target depth of refill, summary of treatment activities, macrophyte and algae, graphical display of SDT data,
What's SDT?
Succudisc.
Transparency.
Thank you.
The clarity.
This is exactly what's in the order?
But we want it in the...
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just
Yep.
simplifies the review.
Yep. Table of nutrient, I'm sorry, summary of photoplankton data if collected, table of nutrient and in situ monitoring data, results of summer, early fall macrophyte survey, semi-quantitative evaluation of macrophyte cover and biomass, species richness and number of species observed, evaluation comparison of differences in the metrics listed above to prior year's data, long-term trends should be discussed if apparent, evaluation of management measures implemented in comparison to targets, also if appropriate, and attempt to explain any macrophyte changes in relation to drawdown. A narrative with graphics if applicable to show shifts, changes in species composition, observation frequencies over time, reported fish kills, document any outreach and education of landowners in the watershed with regard to protection, preservation, and limit pollution within the lake and/or watershed. Recommendation of any changes to the prior year's management program.
The only thing I would suggest is the table of nutrients and in situ monitoring data, if collected.
Okay.
There'll be collection, but we don't want to, we talked about that.
Every 5 years, starting in 2020, the LCC will contract at the applicant's expense of qualified third-party peer review specialist, perform an independent survey of conditions of Lake Shirley regarding vegetation and quality. They will also do a review of the lake management plan, all reports, data provided to the LCC, and actions taken by the applicant over the prior period. Based on this peer review, will produce a report of their findings, conclusions, and any recommendations for review by the applicant and LCC. LCC may waive peer review requirement if LSIC demonstrates the use of multiple sources of lake specialist consultation.
That's good ahead.
Yeah. Each year prior to Labor Day, during the period of this permit, an annual lake vegetation survey will be conducted by a qualified contractor. Vegetation type, density, and biomass and the dominant species will be collected at the same historical location as used in prior year's surveys. Every 5 years, a revised Lake Shirley Management Plan will be presented for review. The plan will have a comprehensive accounting of activities and set out a 5-year schedule of activities to maintain and improve the health of the lake and surrounding environment. This plan should be considered a living document that is being developed. Provide a structure to lay out a process to document the conditions of Lake Shirley, how to manage the problems affecting the lake, document the success of management activities, act as an information repository for review, and to research and review the next step in protecting the lake for the future. An up-to-date lake management plan will be submitted with any order of conditions extension request. At the annual meeting, or any time deemed necessary, the LCC can update, halt, or require any activities or reporting it feels appropriate to protect Lake Shirley environment and the health of the affected by any management activities. I think that's it. So that's a lot to take in now. You have copies of this. Updates, suggestions that you want to, go through at the next meeting. Please share them with us. And likewise, I think we do the same. With that, I think we need to get the special order of conditions ironed out. So once we get in the next 2 weeks, we have a good start, and we tried to take most of the onerous stuff out. So with that, I think, without objection, unless you have any additional comments, the applicant or the commissioners would continue this to the next meeting. Bob.
When we were here last week...
Quick comment.
Let's hear Rich first.
Go ahead, Rich.
Number 5 on the algae control.
Yes.
We do have listed this level will be set during annual report review and the specific product to be recommended. Is that something that perhaps Wendy could provide with the application? So that we have a baseline.
It's our number 4, right?
Where the commission is not itself approving the application. We should at least be approving the guidelines that are being set for the algae control.
Yeah, that's the first bullet, or the first number 5 on top of page 2.
Number 5, under algae control, application of cell count or biomass totals are deemed to be above a level where immediate treatment is required.
Yeah.
If their professional can provide us with those levels for approval, and because Matt's just doing the 72-hour check to make sure that they have met those thresholds.
So I wouldn't recommend a number. This is where you're employing that phycologist, and they would put a line saying, I recommend a treatment, or hold off, let's see what happens in a week. So I'd be, again, it's that predictive capability that we talked about with the plants. That flexibility needs to also occur for the algae. So you don't want to set that 70,000 cell threshold, because by then you're in a lot of
You can't treat.
So would it make sense to just strike the second sentence and just make it application of products commence? Go ahead,
Why
Rick.
don't we just use the methodology that Wendy just stated and add that to the order of conditions, like a recommendation?
Yeah, I think it's actually in the NOI
I think it is,
description. Maybe you can pull it from there.
Right.
I guess application of products can commence when cell counts or biomass totals are deemed to be above a level where immediate treatment is required as determined by the phycologist.
That'd be sufficient.
Yeah, I think that in conjunction, because the NOI is pretty clear on this,
Yeah.
so I think we don't need many words here.
And then you're striking this level will be set during the annual review. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if I spelled that right, but okay. Anything else, Rich?
Thank you.
Bob?
During the workshop last week, when there was only 3 members present, we talked about the whole peer review thing.
Yes.
And it was pointed out that Lake Shirley has already had a lot of different professionals, not just the person who's getting paid to apply the chemicals, involved in the formation of this lake management, well, not the lake management plan, but this notice of intent. And I'd be in favor of taking out the peer review, but that's just my opinion.
I disagree. As your agent, I disagree. We have the ability to waive the review. For example, what LSIC is doing right now, I think is a great approach. I think Wendy has been a great addition to this. We've obviously, at the rapid pace of how we've come a long way.
Right.
But if something happens, there's changeover in people implementing, and they're not as dedicated as the group you got here now, the commission needs to have the ability to have a vehicle to say, hey, we need to step in, you guys need to have a review. The way these guys are approaching it now, I think you guys will probably waive the review requirement, but you guys need to have that in there.
You have a peer review that's doing it now. It's a separate entity.
I agree. That's why I comment that last sentence is perfect.
I agree.
Yeah, because I like the fact that you can waive the requirement, because like I said, I really like the approach you guys are taking right now. But like, if everybody here goes away, the commission needs to be left with a vehicle to be able to deal with it.
Why don't you just strike that whole thing and just say the commission reserves the right to require a third-party review? I mean, you have that in the bylaw anyway. I mean, you have it for the NOI, that you can require a third-party review of the NOI. And that's what I was trying to get at in the...
But that's only
What I was trying to get at in the NOI is that when you apply for the next 5 years, that's when you would review, that NOI will review all your alternatives and everything, so you're getting everything in one report rather than having someone look at this, someone look at that. And at that time, if you're not happy with that NOI, that's where you would, because you have that bylaw that says you can get a third-party review.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care how it's worded, as long as the commission has the ability.
Well, I mean, I like Wendy's suggestion, but when I originally drafted this, I had struck the whole thing out, and this resulting language is kind of the compromise we came up with. I don't know how other commissioners feel about doing that. We reserve the...
I think there's no difference. I don't know why you would just leave it. I think there's no...
Well, because we feel the same way that you could all be gone,
Yeah.
and new members could come in and just mandate the survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they might see this more as the letter of the law than rather, they don't know the
Yeah.
discussion that we had.
But having this in there, the beauty of having this last sentence in here is it sets the expectations for both parties. So if the commission changes, then there's
So
an
it's a-
expectation set that you won't, that, okay, you've got multiple sources, so there's no need for it. So this sets the expectation for both parties, I think.
Okay, ma'am, I'll get to you in just one moment.
Sure.
My thought is, if we're doing this every 5 years, and we're poised to waive this requirement now, and the condition is already in our bylaw, why keep it in?
Exactly, just get rid of it.
To me, if they have to redo their plan every 5 years.
Yeah.
When they redo their plan, and they have to redo their notice of intent, already, they're bringing in outside experts and,
But this makes it clear for the LSIC that if you don't, they read the order of conditions, they'll see that, there's a reason to keep using different consultants and resources because that gives us control. That if we don't use different resources, like if you're not doing what you're doing now, then you may lose control. But if you keep doing what you're doing now,
I get it, but wouldn't that already be covered when you do your peer review of an NOI, when they file it, and that's...
yeah. I don't know. I don't know the makeup of the LSIC or the commission.
Okay, Carl, hold on. Pam?
Jessica Swenson, 17 Root Street. I think we're all looking for the same thing here, but I think the difference between the language that's in there now and the language that Wendy's suggesting is that we don't have to live in fear that you might not waive it every year. We don't have to worry about that. But if you leave the right in there to be able to stand up and say we need a peer review, if there's an issue, you still have the power, but we don't have to be in fear that it might not get waived because you all go away. So you still get the same result, but we don't have to go after a waiver every year and hope to get it. We can know that unless we screw it up, we don't need a waiver.
Well, Mr. Swenson, just to clarify, the requirement will be every 5 years, not every year.
I'm sorry, every 5 years.
We don't need to.
Well, and if we strike it, condition 7 would give us the ability to bring it back in if conditions change.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
And you always have it when you go for an NOI anyway.
So condition 7's at annual meeting or any time deemed necessary, the LCC can update, halt, or require any activities or reporting it feels appropriate to protect lake Shirley environment.
I have an idea.
Yep.
Are we going to make this a 5-year order? I just need that clarified. Because we have the ability to make it a 5-year order instead of a 3.
I'm in favor of that.
So I think it is 5, right?
Well, they're requesting a 5-year. The commission doesn't have to grant it. They can keep it to a standard 3.
Oh, I got you, yep.
But what I'm saying is, you leave that language in, and you add the words, every 5 years, comma, if an extension permit is requested, comma.
So you're going beyond, so if you're...
Well, everybody's saying, 5 years goes, we can require a new NOI, but if you apply for an extension
Right.
permit,
I get
and
it.
your extension permit request is valid because there's been no changes in regulations, then we can turn
You
around.
still have
and
the
do that.
opportunity to review a
Right.
5-year plan.
Right.
Right.
I like that.
And you also have the opportunity to waive it if we're
If-
continuing.
if-
If you ask for an extension, and we look at your extension, and say, these 5 years went great, your approach is great, we don't think we need the peer review, bang, waive it. But if you go for an extension permit, and there's something up, and the commission decides, we need another person in, then,
And because your bylaw wouldn't apply at that time, right? Because you're not filing a new notice of intent, so that gives you the ability to ask for the peer review.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get it, yep.
So where would that add be?
Right after the words, every 5 years, comma, if an extension permit is requested, comma.
Couldn't you just deny the extension and say, no, we want to
You
review it?
could do that.
So why do we need the wording in there, period? I just don't understand why.
Because
you can say no.
administratively, even with a peer review, administratively, it might be easier to go with an extension permit than to go with a whole new NOI.
I understand that, but you can just say no if you don't like it.
Yeah,
Say,
but-
no, we want a peer review.
And according to the condition on number 7, if they don't like the way things are going, they can bring everybody back in
I think we just need to
anyway.
get rid of the whole paragraph.
But, well, the reason why I want to keep the paragraph in there is I think we need that reference.
Yeah.
Again, if we have another commission.
I'd be in favor of keeping it in.
I think we,
I'd be favored.
I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
Jeff, but
I mean,
from my
just
standpoint...
always say no. Yeah.
Well, but Jeff, so then now you're putting yourself in you're putting the 5-year from now commission in the position of they have a choice, of denying an extension permit.
Yeah, exactly. So you can say no, just bring it as a whole new notice of intent.
That's not something, I don't think most commissions are interested in doing, denying an extension permit to a lake that's trying to take care of it,
Especially if it's a decent plan.
Well, no, I'm saying if you're
But I
not...
can understand Jeff's point. Commission does say the commission may extend.
There's still that
but not
shadow
shall
over all the
extend.
lake residents saying, we're going to have to pay for this in 5 years, where if you just line it out and say, we're not going to give you an extension if you don't do it, if you don't keep the lake management or lake in its condition that it is right now.
I think we should go with our agent's recommendation.
I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. I'm just trying to strike a balance.
Let's leave this for now. Let's leave language. If you have additional input or rewording, we'd like to hear it. I personally, I think this is a pretty good compromise, but I think Lake Shirley, because they're seeing it now, needs to digest it a little bit, and we'd appreciate their input.
I have one question.
Yes.
On, under aquatic vegetation control,
Yes.
I think it's number 5. I want my clarity.
Yep.
As I go back in the process. With the 7-day, 14-day, whatever that magic number is.
Yes.
Is there a thought process that Dominic is coming to meet you, or is he just giving you data? And if you have feedback or concerns on any given point, we would take that under advisement, day of treatment, or is there an expectation Dominic's coming and discussing these points with you?
Where is this?
It's
So-
under algae, I think number 5, the
Yeah.
7 days. I just want to make sure.
So we don't have a specific requirement. It could be you coming before us, but you say, hey, here's a report, we can't discuss it. One of the things we tried to address in the special conditions, which we had talked about, was that if we're going to have those areas of treatment that have vegetation lower than 50%, the questionable ones, like, hey, there's not a lot, and they're based on their assessment of the data over the past few years, they think, hey, this is an area we're going to need to control, and here's why. That's supposed to be in the report, not just, we're going to treat, and then we're going, why you're treating this one. So we don't have the discussion of, you preemptively say, hey, we have justification for these points that are less than 50% density.
So if I can, I kind of understand the intent for the commission, as well as the intent in hearing Dominic. If every single commission required them to appear before they do any treatments, they'd spend their months appearing to conservation commissions instead of utilizing their time to go out and do treatments. So I think what she's seeking is clarity. Are we just submitting a report, and if you have questions, we'll have him address, or does he have to appear in front of the commission to report out?
Personally, I don't think the appearances have led to a lot of changes. We have seen over the past few years that they've been more than willing to go out and re-examine areas that had, that they estimated would be, low density, and evaluate it at prior treatment, and then reduce those areas and potentially expand, but that hasn't happened since we started treating.
I personally feel if we get the report, as it says, 14 days before treatment, 7 days before the meeting, I don't think we have to have them appear unless there's an issue with the report. And then we can provide questions. I think I think we should be able to do this without having him come here.
I agree.
I think we should be able to either
That should be the goal.
or have some specific questions we can document, send to him, and get his feedback. You know, there may need to be some information exchange, but I don't think you need to have him come and sit in front of
I agree. Okay.
Dominic does the report in May, and we
Yep.
usually don't chemically treat until the first week, second week of July. We always try to wait till after that July 4th window.
Mhm.
But we have the report in May. He comes out usually the end of May, and through past history, he knows, and we forward that to you. And this is historically from 2006 to 2015. We would come, we would give you the report, these are the chemicals we're using, and then we sent out the flyers once it was all done. He did he'd come out usually a week before, and we were off. Now, it's that we're trying to get on your schedule, you don't have a form, we can't, then he comes and there's, you know, we discuss point over point.
Right.
And Dominic is struggling to pull his boat out of water, because most of his business is in that 60-day window.
Right.
So he's pulling his boat out of somewhere to drive all the way down here to discuss a weed point that might not be as tall as we saw it or he saw it, and it's really not necessary.
Yeah, I think if we get the timing that we're all looking for, you know, the 2 weeks, the 7 days, if we get that timing, we shouldn't have to have him come in. It's when you want to treat the next day that we need to have him in front of us, because there's no time for digesting or exchanging. So if we meet this timeline, I think we'll be fine without him coming.
I think, if I could summarize, I think you're concerned with a lot of back and forth, point by point, you know, someone going out there and spot checking what he did and then coming with questions, and is that correct?
Right, yeah, the goal is that you have, and I think most lake management people I've talked to, is their they have their plan before the summer season starts. They know what the goal is, what the actions are for that summer season. They've already talked to their commissions, they've done their stuff, and now it's kind of, here's the map, this is what we're doing, this is the chemicals we talked about, and they go, and then we come back in September, this is our year end, this is what we learned, this is what happened, you know, we want to try to put over here, whatever that conversation is, in the fall, and then we do a huge end-year report by December 15th.
I don't think this condition says anything really that different. It says that basically they'll submit their report for approval prior to treatment.
Okay, so,
Right?
yep. Number 5 talks about 7 days, and it sounds like they want Dominic here. Well, not Dominic, whomever.
Okay, yeah.
Could be you.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
it
to
could
get.
be you.
Somebody with the document needs to be here.
That's what.
Yep.
But it could be you.
Can say,
It
right.
doesn't have to be Dominic.
But you want someone here.
Yes.
That's what,
That's, I believe, what this says.
Yeah.
that's what.
Well, if we're gonna vote on it and approve it at the meeting, and this is just for herbicide, because we know that algae treatment, sometimes we can't do that. If we're gonna approve it at a meeting, we need your representative here, whoever it may be, for LSIC.
And from 2006 to 2015, that never happened. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Any thoughts from, that's an interesting point. Any thoughts from commissioners, if we get the report ahead of time prior to treatment, approving without a representative?
All my expressions were relative to bringing in a paid contractor, that we don't need to have that. But I think having, a water quality, somebody that's familiar with the treatment that could present it and have any discussion, and if there are questions to relate back to the professionals, then we can take them to them.
I think all that's part of the, hold on. Yes, ma'am.
Carolyn Jewell, 20 Sunset Lane. I think what we need to do, LSIC and LCC, is depend on these professionals that we've hired. When they make a statement and when they bring in the paperwork or send it to you, whatever, and say this area needs to be done, we need to have confidence in these people that we've hired. We're not just going out and getting Tom, Dick, and Harry. We want responsible people, and that's what we've done. We've done the best. It's costing us a lot of money to do this, and it costs money for every time we have somebody come here to just say again what he put on paper.
Right.
I would
I
say
just-
that that's not what we do in every single instance. When we go out and do a site visit, we have a tape measure, we check the engineer's work.
Sure.
When we, every single filing, it's not just carte blanche accepting what the expert has to say. I agree, they're an expert, that's their profession, but they make mistakes, and that's why we do this.
So when an as-built is submitted, you get your own as-built done?
No, but we go and spot check measurements. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. We've seen some that are not right.
And who's that?
So those people, I'm assuming, who did those surveys would then get their licenses pulled, or they would not?
No, I mean, it could be an honest mistake.
Okay, but we've got years.
All right, let me interject here, Steve. When you filed your NOI for your garage,
Yep,
you had a plan drawing.
correct.
I went out and I spot checked those, and I had a commissioner come out with me and spot check those.
Correct, that was it.
Okay?
Yep.
So, it's the same principle.
Well, it is.
It doesn't mean that if we found a mistake in the drawing, the guy's gonna get his license pulled. What it simply means is, okay, maybe he had a bad day, maybe he had a computer glitch, there's an error here, just fix it. It's nothing that's gonna turn around and tie up the process. We're simply just looking to have the documentation, let's see what the documentation says. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, everything that's on there is nailed pretty good. And every once in a while, we have a clarification.
Micromanagement, right? I mean, nobody wants micromanagement.
This isn't micromanagement, this is normal process. You can go to any commission in any town that does lake management, and they do the same things. Yeah, they do. We do it in Westminster, we do it in Sterling, we do it in Dudley, they do it in Harvard, I've seen it done in Groton. I mean, they're doing it, they do it. Some towns, yeah, maybe they're not as on top of it, but it is done. All we're asking is for somebody to come in. Doesn't have to be Dominic, doesn't have to be anybody you could pay. It could be you as a volunteer saying, hey, here's the documents, what do you guys think? We look at it and, we've already looked at it and said, it looks good. Maybe we could strike up a deal where if they give us the documentation ahead of time, if we all look at it and nobody gives me a question, then nobody needs to come.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really object to coming. I don't think that's really the big issue. It's just the micromanaging of the plan, I guess, is what we're hoping to...
Well, I think everybody wants to avoid it who's participated in these meetings over the last few years. I think everybody wants to avoid it, and I think we're also trying to do our due diligence whenever we review these things carefully as well. So we're not trying to be overly burdensome, but we're trying to do what we've been appointed to do.
No, I understand I understand.
And I'll say, one thing I'll say from history,
No respect to you, I would never go in someone's house and say, I can turn off their fire. Can't do it. Not trained, don't know how, can't hook up a hose. What qualifications? Because I was on planning board, and I went and did site visits. So when the applicant was in front of me, I visually could understand what they were speaking of and understand the project. But I never said to them, no, I want R17 installation, not R30, because I'm not qualified to do that. So what certifications, now Matt is. Absolutely Matt certified. Marion Benson, she got peer engineering because she didn't have all the certifications Matt had. So I get that Matt has, but what certifications or back to methodologies do we have that you guys are making those decisions, I guess? And it's not being disrespectful, please don't take
No, I'm not, but I don't think anybody's making a decision. It's looking at the report and saying, well, maybe we don't agree with it. That's all I'm saying.
Carl, go ahead, then Joel. Hold on, Joel.
There were a couple of times that you noted that the plan that was presented had a certain number of acres, and what was actually treated was less. In at least two of the cases, some of that reduced treatment was after a discussion that we had with Dominic, based on some of our just reviews saying about this and that. Dominic acknowledged that he didn't do the survey, and as a result, he relooked at some of the areas and he reduced the treatment. So it wasn't we were deciding and said, no, you can't treat the 30 acres. We just said these areas that don't seem to make sense to us. And he said, well, take a look at them. Matt went with them, and it got reduced. There is room for judgment calling.
No, he didn't want to fight the fight, and that's what Dominic said, he didn't want to
Well-
fight the fight.
Hold on,
I
Joe.
mean, I think it was-
Hold on. Joel had a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of agree with everybody. Going out to measure an as-built makes sense, but that's a very scientific, quantitative thing. Going out and measuring biology is slightly different. So you say, I don't agree with this general area, or these weeds are this high. I don't know, it's not like taking a tape measure out. And if you guys want to do that, I say the town just goes and does that on their own and don't make us pay this large amount of money. I mean, I pay more money in my taxes because I live on the lake, and none of that is used for all this activity. Then I volunteer and pay money, and I volunteer my time to do all this testing. But you guys, you kind of micromanage, and these professionals, like I build databases for pharmaceutical companies for a living. And if somebody came in and every time I programmed something, someone else had to come in and, check my programming, it's just crazy. It's like not as easy as like measuring an as-built. I think the point is that we're hiring professionals, but then we get into these bickering sessions where, well, I don't really think it's that big. When, people went out and looked at it and they determined that it was that big. So we're just wasting time and money, and all we want to do is treat a lake and make it as nice as possible.
So I have one comment as a follow-up to that. In our discussion last week, when Dominic was on the call, one of the things that he promised to do, and has been his practice over the last few years, is not only in the pre-treatment report is he going to have areas where he notes that I'd like to treat these areas even though, based on my pre-treatment survey, the density isn't as thick as I anticipated to be. He also said prior to every application, he goes out, throws a rake, and evaluates those areas, and will, if treatment isn't necessary, not treat in those areas. And I think he's shown he will do that because we've had reduced treatment every year.
No, I've watched him do it, so I can totally...
I understand the questioning of the points, and most of the points you're going to question him on are going to be in the areas, and I'm presuming here, and you jump in if I'm wrong, Carl, or anyone else, are going to be in the areas where we have low densities and he still wants to treat, right?
Typically, yeah.
And
That's easy to see.
he's already addressing what his practice is he's going to estimate them, and if they're not right, he's going to check those low density areas prior to treatment.
So why do we need to talk about it?
So why do we need to talk about it?
Yeah,
Because I think that's our job.
Well, he's also stated...
Okay, we're not qualified.
He's also stated in typical areas throughout the years he's been doing it, that this one area gets thicker later. So it may be at a massive 20% right now, but every year it grows to 60% or whatever, arbitrary number. So I'm going to preemptively treat it now when it's a little bit lower, and I think that's where listening to the professionals works in everybody's favor, as opposed to not holding this number, this theoretical number. Like he said last week, you can throw a rake and you can swivel in your chair and throw it 8 feet in a different area and get a total different read.
Yeah.
So it's not an exact science. Biology is not an exact science.
I think what you should be looking for in his report is the detailed explanation of why he believes. I saw fanwort. Fanwort is going to continuously grow. There's other plants with the exact opposite as what you mentioned. They're dense in the beginning of the year and they naturally die off, like Fungi crispus. That's essentially gone from the lake come July. And so I think you need to have some trust in the people that you're hiring, but make them explain themselves clearly, rather than I'm just gonna, and then at some point you're gonna have to trust what they say.
Well, it's really all I'm asking for is for them to give us a detailed report and explain what's going on. That's all. They don't need to come down and go through it point by point. We can read. Yeah, but if there's a question, and qualifications or no qualifications, it's a volunteer board. They may have a question, and they have a right to ask questions because that's their function as a conservation commissioner. We are not. I need to make this clear. We do trust the professionals. I like the direction this is going, but I am not, myself, as a professional, going to take a report that I get and take everything I see in blind faith. Okay? And that, Steve, no disrespect, but that seems to be what you're asking me to do.
No.
I can't do that.
It's not what I'm asking you to do, and I understand that completely. It's, going out and doing individual site surveys when, Mr. Rabbit said he did that over the years, right after he asked the specific methodologies of Dominic's people and was asking for their credentials because they were new hires, as if Dominic wasn't training his people, he was hiring people off the street to go throw a race and give a number.
Well, no, and on that point, I personally disagreed with Jack, and he knows that. I would take it under faith in Dominic, and it's his business, it's his people. He's required to hire qualified people because the state won't deal with him licensing if he doesn't have qualified people.
But historically, that's the questions Dominic's been getting. That's the grilling he's been getting is, well, you submitted this report, but yet we threw rates out and we don't see the density you're getting. So that's what he's being subject to, is that's questioning his professionalism. That line of questioning to me is inappropriate. I don't expect you to blindly follow the leader, but there are certain things that you're not qualified.
Point taken. I just, as long as we both understand where each other's coming from.
100%.
I'm not looking to, and I hate every time I try to get a standard imposed, somebody says, oh, you're micromanaging. I'm not micromanaging. I'm managing. I'm a regulator. That's my function.
Yes.
I am a regulator. I'm going to regulate. If I walked by your house when your garage was being done and I saw something not in that order, you would have got a document from me.
Yes.
That's my function.
That's your job. I understand that completely.
But I understand where you're coming from, so, I'm glad that we both clarified that. Always good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that horse dead?
Again.
All right.
So aggravated. I'm with you.
Anything else from commissioners or the LSIC? Any other current things you'd like to discuss?
It's just, is there anything else we can know to get this completed next week, at the next meeting?
I think we're pretty darn close. I'd like to get a clean copy of everything this week to incorporate any comments.
Do we owe you something, or are you giving us a clean
No,
copy?
yeah, I think the NOI is in good shape. I think we're going to try and get this special conditions done, so you guys can say, hey, okay, we're fine with how these special conditions are going to be structured.
Now, if we have recommendations, do you want us to blue line? Do you want us to...
I'm going to send out a clean copy based on the revisions I have this
and
evening.
then if we have Wendy or we can...
I'm going to send it to Matt. Matt's going to send it out to everybody for you guys to
Well, Wendy.
and including Wendy to make any suggested changes.
And we'll run it also by Dominic, just to make sure he understands
Yes.
what he's going to be committing to.
And I
Yep.
include Senator.
So, Mr. Chair, so the process is you're going to clean this up, whatever LSIC and their team want to feed back to us, and will that be distributed to all of us in advance of the next meeting?
Yes, when we send it out to them, we'll send it out. So if our commissioners have any...
about their reply.
Their reply.
As soon as you get it to us, Wendy, Dominic, and I will have a call, get it back to you within, I'd say, 48 hours, we'll have it back to you.
Then
Because, I mean, I
it'll
already
be
want
distributed
to
by the commissioners.
Yeah. Okay.
To the commissioners.
So to Matt, and then you can send it to all of us.
We can't debate it.
Right. Well, yeah, we can't even share our...
Exactly, but at least we'll know what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever we need to talk about for the next meeting.
Right.
But I think we can get this done for sure at the next one.
We can
based on
think
what-
about it individually.
We can do
Yes.
that individually, right. But we can also individually assess their inputs. Yeah. So I think the closer we stand to this, the better chance we have of just making it happen next week. And then they can start the drawdown the next day.
Yeah.
That's
the plan.
Well, are we able to begin the 3-foot drawdown still in the 15th?
Yes.
Can we open and begin the 3-foot on the 15th? Because you're not going to hit 3 feet in 2 days.
No, based on their direction, I believe and correct me if I'm wrong here, all drawdowns have to be permitted, correct?
I don't think. Believe, isn't that what Judy had sent to me? Because I forwarded her response to you.
There was, something about, I think you had asked about
The 3 feet.
So we're gonna lose 2 days.
Which is fine, I just didn't know if we could
Wait, I
stay
didn't
ahead of
see
it.
an email. What email are you talking about?
I'll see if I can find it right now.
I believe Judy came to our meeting and said you can do a 3-foot drive
You can do
down.
it every year, you do
without
a 3-foot
any-
drive down for safety, to
Yeah.
remove dogs.
Unless you guys need the town have it ask. I don't remember.
Huh?
I mean, I'll re-forward you her response.
I mean, it's really a moot point, you're only talking 2 days.
Yeah, it's 2 inches per day, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we'll be willing to be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, with the way this process has gone, I feel pretty confident we'll finish this up next meeting.
Yeah, I hope so, I think it's going pretty positive.
Honestly, I think the debate's been real healthy, and I think everybody's been productive. I'm really happy with the way things are going here. You know, I think it'll be a good, strong order that everybody can live with and work with, and...
Yeah, I agree.
And I think if we do it, we're going to build confidence in each other and
Joanna,
make things much
with your permission, we're gonna continue the 16th.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
With that, I'll accept the motion to continue to October 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote. Richard Bursch.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones. Aye. Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Locke.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone.
I may have to participate by phone.
That's fine.
That's fine. Wendy, thank you. Wendy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, what else we got so we can get out of here?
Violations. 110 Fire Road 12. What's that?
He's not here, so I'm going to have him physically served.
Okay.
That's the guy at the end of Fire Road 12 on the peninsula that was doing earthwork.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not paying attention to the documentation that I sent him, so I'm going to have a police officer serve him.
Emerald Place Beach updates.
I have no update yet. I
Okay.
can keep it on the agenda.
New business, shall we table that till next meeting?
I'd like to discuss regulation review.
Actually, I had one thing under violations, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Rich.
2 weeks ago, we had issued a certificate of compliance for whatever Beale Street, and we're going to issue them and to update the driveway and the perimeter drain.
Yep.
Did the enforcement order get sent out, Matt?
Yeah, actually, I did. I'm sorry. I forgot to put it on the cloud.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that went out, so he's gonna update that.
Yeah. In fact, I talked to the closing attorney, but now that you say that, I talked to the closing attorney about that, because he actually came to see me like the next day.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you for the reminder.
Just add that okay, just add it to violations for the next agenda.
Yep.
Regulation review.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
At the meeting I missed, Rich brought in some new, actually at a meeting I was at, Rich brought in a new section, vegetation removal and replacement.
Yes.
And then at the meeting I missed, Ken made a point about brush should be, and lawn and landscaping should not be included in the definition. And so, I have 2 points about this. I've been thinking about it. One, the revision that we got, it just said existing, in response to Ken's comments, it just says existing lawn and landscaping is not included in this definition. And so, I have that, but I have a problem with no vegetation within the 30 foot of a resource area shall be damaged, extensively pruned, or removed without in-kind replacement proposed or written approval by the commission. It's absolute. There's no exceptions. I have a problem with that. It's like, anytime someone puts a dock in, they need a path to get to it. We just put a thing in this regulation revision, that people could apply to put a 36-inch wide pedestrian path, on top of the existing ground. And this is the absolute nature of it, I think, to me, it's like, I applaud and I really like the idea that when we require vegetation replacement, this gives us standards. I really like that. But the idea that it's absolute and there always has to be something is...
Bob?
Yes, sir.
Just to your point, all the examples you used
Yes, sir.
were applications. So if somebody comes in for an application, we can always grant a waiver to the 30-foot no-touch zone.
But I don't think we should
So,
have to
if somebody
grant...
could read it.
I'm sorry, you finish your thought, Rich.
Yeah, so that was to read, if somebody's reading it, it states there is no, whatever the exact language is, I don't have it in front of me. And then I believe as we read down, it does state that the commission can waive on a case-by-case basis. So all of the examples you just used as far as walkways and docks are projects that still need to be applied for, and we can waive that requirement at that time. But, I mean, we want to be fairly specific. A no-touch zone is a no-touch zone. So if somebody wants to do any work in there, they need to apply for it. As people do, and we do grant it. So it's not a permanent, you can't ever do that. You just have to come to the commission and ask for it.
But it doesn't say that. I still object to the absolute nature of it. I mean, for years, we've been routinely approving docks. Okay?
Yep.
Routinely approving docks, and yet, according to our no-touch, our existing regulations, we should have never approved any dock without specifically waiving, the 30-foot no disturbance zone, and we never do that. We just approve the dock.
And actually, I do agree with you, they should be applying for a waiver.
Right, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, that was
I
a whole
agree with you
discussion on
100%
waivers,
that, and
right?
that's a procedural issue, that we should be granting a waiver, or they should be applying for the waiver.
And didn't we...
I believe that's a discussion we've also had, that making sure that when people apply for a waiver, they list the waivers that they are applying for.
Yeah, well, that's why I came up with that form, but nobody's finalized.
Okay, but I thought we actually, in the regulations, I thought we added some words to make it clear that you need to request a waiver.
We did.
Yeah, so that, to your point, Richard, that we actually added language that says you need to request a waiver.
Correct.
That's why I've actually started working on
So it's
waiver
not an
request
absolute,
forms.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute without permission.
Well,
And I
since-
do also agree with you, Bob, that they didn't add the language of Ken's concerns about brush removal. Landscape and lawn was already in there, and then we talked about brush removal.
Yeah, we did add
Light
something
brush
else in
removal.
there. Yeah. It's not...
Okay, I didn't pick up on it on the video, so I'll look at the video again.
Okay. Yeah, we did change that, Richard. I remember we did change, we put a little caveat in that paragraph.
Right.
Yeah, we did discuss that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'll double check the video.
Something else in there. Okay. Brush removal, I think it was something about brush removal by hand or something.
Well, I can
like
see
that.
no one else feels the same way I do, so I'll stop talking.
Well, no, that's originally why I brought up the point.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I didn't see it on the video, so I must have missed
Okay.
it.
Old business, any updates on Small Town Forest site visit?
No, I haven't heard back from Gary.
What about the Ford stewardship bird habitat planning for Hollis?
I don't have any update on that.
I'm going to meet with Gary when I get back in November to mark out what he feels an access would be needed from the Lunenburg Water District. And then I can go ask for that.
Okay. Ken, you have an update on Saliba?
I do. The town was awarded both grants.
No kidding.
From the,
we got the grants.
From the state, we got both
Wow.
grants for the full amount.
That's amazing.
So going to town meeting will make, it'll be a lot better going to town meeting with those grants in hand. So
That is amazing. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Nice job.
so that's, we're looking for support for the first meeting at the Selectmen next Tuesday, we're going to be presenting.
So is anyone notifying the Salibas on the updates?
Yep, they're in the loop. So
they know we've got the grants?
Yep, so Tuesday night, we'll be presenting our, dog and pony show at the Selectmen's meeting, and then we'll be looking for everybody's support at town meeting.
That is amazing. Wow.
So it was a lot earlier than we expected, so I think that's good going.
No, that's really good. I mean, you get a decision that fast, that's, yeah.
Good job.
Minute review, let's table minutes till next meeting. We can approve them then. And anyone who hasn't had a chance to review the minutes, please do so. But we'll move probably the next meeting. Anything else, Matt?
The ADA grant, the parking area trails I did, the ADA, the people from the State Office of Disability that were administering the grants came down last Monday, the 23rd, and did a visual inspection of all the areas that we constructed, and they loved it.
That's awesome.
Loved it. We get a lot of high marks for the work that we did on establishing those accessible trails and making the parking lots accessible for everybody.
All right. With that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, roll call vote, Rich Birch.
Aye.
Bob Pease.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Just for everybody's information, the next meeting is October 16th at the Bellata Meeting Room, 17 Main Street, Town Hall at 7 p.m.
And we will actually make it home before Thursday. Maybe.